Okay, where's Aaron? It is 6:16. I call to order the City of Glenwood Springs City Council meeting for July 2nd, 2026. This is our regular meeting for the beginning of the month. And good evening, everyone. First up, and would Liz please take a roll call?
Mayor Dame.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski. Councillor Townsley.
Here.
Councillor Schmall.
Here.
Councillor Weimer.
Here.
Councillor Schechter.
Here.
Councillor Smith.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. Changes to the agenda. Item 2 tonight, anybody? I wasn't made aware of any, so I assume there's none. We'll move on. Disclosure of any conflict of interest from any counselors with any agenda items tonight. Also see none. We'll move right into item 4, which is citizens appearing before council and our response to that for items that are not on the agenda. Also see none. Relatively quiet so far. Council announcements, item 5. Who wants to go first? Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, please.
Saturday morning at 10 a.m. at the gazebo at Sayre Park, we are going to have a public reading of the Declaration of Independence, along with some local musicians and just a general kind of patriotic feel-good gathering of the community. And Councillor Shatner and myself are both going to be participating in that. We'd love to see you all there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Did you say the time? Sorry.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Excellent. Any other announcements? Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Strawberry Days is finished. Transportation for Strawberry Days is always a big deal, and the options were even better than usual. 900, pardon me, 968 people arrived at Strawberry Days by bicycle, biggest number ever. Pennies short of 1,000 people. We're working on it. The city's dial-a-ride service had 200 people more just on Saturday than on a typical Saturday. Ride Glenwood Springs itself, the fixed route service, had 350 people more during the weekend than a typical weekend, in part because the bus ran extended hours and had more frequency in the middle of the day, especially on Saturday. But city put out an effort in those ways to help people get there with fewer cars and fewer parking problems. So that was a nice success. A couple days later, a Bike There Day on June 24th, the following Wednesday, 231 people rode their bicycles for a free breakfast and to go where they were going, work, school, classes, shopping. One of the higher numbers that we've seen ever. Again, the city had a big role, put in some partial funding to help the whole event happen. Did the logistics and set up for one of the breakfast stations for cyclists to come by. And even designated this Bike There Day, Bike to Work Day as it's sometimes known, as an official city employees wellness opportunity where you can earn points toward extra vacation days if you're a city employee who did that particular activity. So the city really engaged on that one again with some nice success. Thanks very much.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, excellent. Just a quick one. July 4th at Two Rivers Park. City's putting on a big party to celebrate. I don't know when it starts, but at 10, at 12, and when does it start? At 4. Excellent. So on the 4th at Two Rivers Park. 4 and the 4th. Perfect. We can do that. Anything else? See none. Get into the consent agenda for tonight. We have item A, B, C, and D. Item A is the minutes from the June 18th council meeting. The B is the Arts and Culture Board reappointment or appointment. C is the Downtown Development Authority Board reappointment, and D is the ordinance 2026-11, an ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, amending section 080, 030, 030, 080, 040, 060, and 100, 010, 100 of the Glenwood Springs Municipal Code regarding enforcement by the neighborhood service specialist. And this is the second reading. With that, I'm entertaining a motion for the consent agenda. Councilor Townsend.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve and need a second. Know how it goes.
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski. Any discussion on the consent agenda? See none, I'll call the question.
The motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yes, please.
As always, I would like to thank both Shelley Fishman and Larry McDonald for their continued participation on the DDA. And I did not see the name of the appointment for the Arts and Culture Board.
Don't remember that off the top of my head, I apologize.
So I apologize, Anonymous, but I appreciate your participation and willingness to serve the community as well.
Wow, I'm the liaison to the Arts and Culture Board and I'm drawing a blank.
Lindsay.
That's right. It's
Lindsay
Lindsay.
Bobbitt.
That's right. It's Lindsay. It's Lindsay. I can't say her last name. I'm sorry. It's Lindsay. Thank you, Lindsay, for doing this, for being part of the Arts and Culture Board. I want to call her Jones because she's Kyle's wife, so it's very confusing to me. But anyway, item 7, proclamation, Parks and Rec. Let's do this. And I'm calling up, let's see if I got this. Christy, Tiffany, Nick, James. Steve said he wants to take the movie, and Matt, please come up as well, since you're the Parks and Rec. Chair. Did I forget somebody? Tim. Oh, Dan. Dan, please. Absolutely.
I'm doing.
Lots of stars.
Steve, I told you that's Bree's job. Come on up. All right. Our Parks and Rec team and Parks and Rec Commission. Excellent. Everybody's here. Okay, a proclamation for Parks and Recreation Month, July 2026. Whereas Parks and Recreation promote health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks. And whereas Parks and Recreation promote time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourage physical activity by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the city of Glenwood Springs recognizes the benefit derived from parks and recreation resources by building strong, vibrant, and resilient neighborhoods where no one is excluded and where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. And whereas we celebrate the honor bestowed upon the city's Parks and Recreation Department in being selected as the cover photo of the National Recreation and Parks Association, the NRPA, July 2026 magazine, with an included article spotlighting where community grows and thrives. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Mark O'Dame, Mayor of City of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2026 is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Glenwood Springs. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, to be affixed this second day of July in the year 2026. Congratulations. Parks and Rec Month, July. Thank you for what you do. Nick, thank you.
I can get one like, yay.
Me too. Yeah.
Everybody
Everybody stand up. Come on, Parks and Rec, yay! And
That's what we said.
You're the interim.
I know. Yeah. They're ready. This is.
Okay, that moves us on to the second page of our tonight's agenda. Item 8 tonight is wildfire preparation and mitigation. Chief, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Joseph Darris, your Public Safety Director, Chief of Public Safety. Here I'm going to introduce to you Angie Davlin. She's the Executive Director of the Roaring Fork Valley Fire Collaborative, which we are active members of, and we contribute to that in finances and personnel and staff time. She works very closely with Mina, sometimes me, but Mina Bolton on a lot of mitigation projects. She's really been the architect of some of these very large grants that we've been recipients or been awarded from, and she's worked with Tim Bergman, of course, and Mina on those grant managements as well. But in particular, we've had some conversation with some of you about, what's the status of those grants and where's that work being done. And I'm certainly in no position to be real specific about that. So we've asked her to come in, share some information with y'all, and take any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you.
And then.
Perfect. All right, I promised Chief Darris that I would cut down my slides, but I'm just going to talk very fast instead. Like Chief said, I'm Angie Davlin. I'm the Executive Director of the Wildfire Collaborative, and I'd love to just share a little bit about what we do, but focus the bulk of this on the work that we're doing in the 3 mile and 4 mile area. Those of you who were here through recent fires know that wildfires are certainly a part of our life. You just have to stick your head outside today and breathe the smoke to know that this is something that is not going away. And the collaborative was really formed out of both this challenge and urgency, and also out of hope, and the hope that comes not just in the ephemeral sense, but from real science-backed solutions, knowing that we can actually move the needle on wildfire with the right investments and the right tools. So I'd like to talk about some of those today. We focus on community resilience, which means living with fire, but proactively reducing the destructive consequences of it. We were formed as a program of the Aspen Institute 3 years ago and spun off as an independent nonprofit 2 years ago. And now we bring together all of these partners and more really to move that needle on wildfire resilience. And I'm sort of a research nerd at heart. So when I think about a really complicated problem like wildfire resilience, I go to the research, and what it tells us about what wildfire resilience really means in practice are these 6 things that you're seeing on the screen. First, preventing accidental fires from happening. We've seen a lot of those this season already. In our area, it's not actually humans causing the most fires, it's lightning, which is a double-edged sword. It means we can't control that as well as we can human cause fires. It's also keeping small fires small. One of our best tools to do this is our set of 13 Pano AI cameras throughout the entire watershed. There's a great coverage over your area here in Glenwood through the triangulation that comes from a number of these cameras. You probably are aware when smoke is detected from these cameras, which are increasingly speedy at doing this within seconds, Our first responders get a text message that shows them exactly where that smoke is located, which is beneficial not just for that obvious reason of spotting the fire fast, which is really critical, but helping firefighters get to that fire fast, which is more of a problem in our mountainous area than one would have thought. 3 years ago, before we had these cameras, and we were the first in the nation to have them out here, now there are hundreds nationwide, we'd rely on people calling in smoke and being able to correctly identify where that was. And we just don't have to rely on that anymore. Am I talking too fast?
No,
Okay.
perfect.
Okay, great. The third is rapid, effective firefighting response. We have excellent firefighters here who, do the best that they can with the equipment that they have and the staff that they have, facing an increasingly expanding need. Wildfire, what we knew a decade ago or 2 decades ago, is just not at the scope and scale of the fires that we're seeing today. And every year across the West, fires get bigger, hotter, harder to put out, deadlier, more dangerous. It's a problem that keeps getting tougher. The other tricky thing about relying on firefighting response to fight wildfires is that there truly is no amount of water, engines, or firefighters that can fight a fire once it becomes an urban conflagration. And that is no dig on any of our incredible districts valley-wide, including Glenwood. That's just to say, when you look at it, Hawaii, Marshall Fire, LA fire, you can't fight that many fires simultaneously. So we have to do as much as we can before the fire gets here to prepare. Fourth, we need safe and efficient evacuation systems, which lies under the jurisdiction of the sheriff's office and the county. And we need homeowners to do their part around their homes. And one of our great tools for this is with Glenwood Fire, who does no cost, confidential home wildfire risk assessments to the tune of, hundreds over the course of the year. And people are increasingly asking for this. And I know it's, the fire districts are responding, and there's probably far more demand than we can meet. When I talk to homeowners about this, I talk to them about what really burns down homes in a fire, which is embers. And we know this because of this guy. This is Dr. Jack Cohen. He's standing in the boreal forest of Canada in the late 90s. And he did a massive experiment where he divided the forest into these segments. He built structures. And then, as you can see on that left-hand side, he lit those biggest, tallest trees he could find. Why Canada? The boreal forest, it was like the densest forest he could find. And he found something really interesting. He was trying to figure out how close can homes be to a fire before burning down. And truly, again, these are the biggest, hottest fires he could create. And he found really the answer is somewhere between 66 and 100 feet, which is pretty darn close, far closer than any of us would want to stand to a giant fire. But with the right materials, which are pretty standard building materials, and with home hardening and defensible space, vegetation management around the home, most homes are pretty good. We know this is true. We've seen it in fire after fire where, with a little vegetation management, we are seeing excellent results. You can look at this picture of the Waldo Canyon fire, which looks a lot like the neighborhood I live in Carbondale. And that home with a little bit of tree space around the bottom is the only one that withstood. So we encourage people, we say, like, if you do one thing today, sign up for a free home risk assessment. This QR code works no matter where you live in our watershed. And it gets you in the queue for that amazing resource. And then lastly, and kind of the core of what I want to talk to you about today, we do large scale strategic fuels reduction in the wildland urban interface around communities, which means we build fuel breaks to protect communities by slowing the progression of fire. What this looks like is this. We take the forests that we see that are pretty darn overgrown with trees that are spaced really close together with a lot of vegetation and dead stuff on the ground. And we're thinning to 50%. We're not creating ski runs, or clear cutting. We're thinning trees, which is not only better for wildfire mitigation, but it's healthier for the forest ecosystem. It's healthier for wildlife, and it's certainly better for wildfire. We know this is true because research shows us that it's the speed of fires, not the size of fires, that causes damage. So these fast fires make up only 3% of all fires, and they cause almost 90% of all the damage. We are in fast fire country. And there's a lot that we need to do to slow down the progression of fire. We're doing these fuel breaks throughout the valley. We helped with the Sunnyside burn last year in April. We're doing a 3,000 acre project in partnership with the BLM and the Forest Service and the HOA there in the Mid Valley. We're doing projects in partnership with Basalt. The left-hand side is the before, the right-hand side is the after, and you can really see what 50% fuels reduction looks like from, you know, this aerial view. There's still plenty of trees. They're just better spaced. And we're doing this work throughout the entire valley. One reason why it's critical to connect the valley, I mentioned that 3,000 acre project. If you look at the red blob that's right in the middle of the valley there, like the nose on Rudolph, that's that 3,000 acre project. Why they're kind of in the no man's land in the middle near Sopris, the Forest Service and Roaring Fork Fire conducted a virtual simulation and found that fire would run from just south of Carbondale to Snowmass in 12 hours, straight through this area. And so all of these distinct communities that we see as somewhat separate are really interconnected in the world of wildfire. The problem for us is that there is no amount of funds that we could raise through all the grants in the world to do this work throughout the entire watershed on our entire forest. And so we really had to come up with the best strategic data to understand where to strategically put resources. That led us to a partnership with Vanderbilt University, which is truly doing the most cutting edge and advanced wildfire modeling in the world. The person leading that is Dr. Hussam Mahmood. You can see there in the picture. He is an structural engineer by background, but has been working on this particular fire model for a decade. And it is excellent. It's actually almost 90% accurate at predicting exactly how fire will move. If you're still not convinced, I've got the 2-slide version of why this advanced wildfire modeling is critical. Without it, the best information that I have to plan where those fire breaks should go is using the Colorado Forest Atlas, which takes Glenwood Springs area and models our wildfire risk as this. And you can see there are 2 main problems. One is like everything is a problem. And so I can't narrow from this. And 2 is that the places where the people live are treated as urban areas that are immune from wildfire. And so they don't show how fire spreads through a community. So we have now some of the early results from the advanced wildfire modeling in the 3 and 4 mile areas of Glenwood. We targeted that area for a number of reasons. The grant really prioritized vulnerable populations. There's no cell service in that area. It's dirt roads. There's a mobile home park at the base of that road. It connects us to a critical area of dense homes in South Glenwood. It's high wildfire risk. And there's a lot of seniors in that population. So lots of reasons to focus on that particular area. And we know some cool stuff. Number one, we know, again, with 90% accuracy, how fire would move through that community. And that circle area is that Mountain Springs Ranch community that's way up that road, just for your reference as we go through some of these slides. This map is actually 1,000 different maps of wildfire laid over top of each other. So Hussam's, the Vanderbilt model runs the simulation using local wind data, 15 data points that we hand collected from every single home in this area. And there were almost 2,000. It uses a 3D model of the town, vegetation, topography, terrain. It's an incredible amount of models, of data points. And then it starts virtual fires in every single area of this rectangle and sees how the fire would run and then stacks all of those simulations on top of each other. So the darkest red color in this map shows us that fire would reach that square in 75% of those simulations or more. So most of the time. We know that these are the areas under the most risk of wildfire, no matter where fire starts in this, and they're areas that we're targeting. We also know, and this is most exciting to me, exactly what we can do about it. So this is the roadmap for this area of Glenwood for mitigation. Every square is a 6 by 6 acre parcel. The darker the red color, the higher the importance. And if we are able to focus on all of these areas, the result is that we will actually be able to shift the trajectory of the fire away from homes, which I think is truly incredible science magic. Like, we are now in an era of wildfire. We're talking about changing wildfire's path by doing targeted vegetation management, which I don't know, I think it's the coolest thing. The prescription in every one of those squares is this. Again, we're thinning to 50%. And if you're wondering, well, what would that do? We take this path, which you've already seen, and with that mitigation, we move it from this. So we're seeing fire really shifted away from the critical area where people make. Now, this is vegetation management alone, thinning alone. And if we can get homeowners on board to manage the first 30 feet around their homes, this is the impact. Which is so incredible here is we're no longer seeing fire even reach the core populated areas here. Here's some close-ups. The square on the right is just a zoom in of the left. And you can see, again, no mitigation, after mitigation, and paired with home hardening, we're making a substantial difference in the way the fire moves. And we know this is right to about 90% accuracy. We also know which homes are most vulnerable in this area. Oops. Hold on. And those are these. The orange home looking polygons are the ones that would basically be critically wounded in a fire. And the ones that are darkest red, we know would be fully burned to the ground. The panel on the right is if you focus only on the highest danger. The homes on the left are still basically uninhabitable, so not to be ignored. After mitigation, those reduced by half, which is really incredible. And again, with homeowners getting on board, we have only one home in this entire area that would be fully burned by fire. So this is the fire path before mitigation and the homes and the fire path after. Again, like just repeats of these to show you how those align. And then lastly, we also know, quite importantly, which homes are most responsible for spreading fire to other homes, which helps us target those homeowners to do mitigation on their homes with our support, sometimes with grant funds. The prescription for that is really targeting that first 30 feet, removing those fuels away, using the recommendations of the fire district, and a lot of hand holding along the way. We're doing this work in every single blue community that you can see. I would love to bring this work to downtown Glenwood. Every time I have a grant opportunity that would fund that area, it's something that I always try to write in. We'll continue to pursue that. And thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm happy to answer any questions.
That was awesome. That was fast and concise and just right to the point. That was great. Thank you so much for being here.
You got it. Yeah, thank you.
Questions? We'll start with Counselor Smith.
Thank you, and thank you. Yes, that was very clear, concise, and I was scrambling to keep up with notes to the point that I missed orienting where those sample maps really are. Can you orient me on one of your red maps where those roadways are?
Thanks. I should have
What do you
started
need?
with that. Okay. So the yellow road is Highway 82. The dotted black line is kind of the core of the city of Glenwood. The green circle, which I know is a little bit hard to see against the red, is the Mountain Springs Ranch community, which it takes 45 minutes to get there. And then you can see 4 Mile Road running into Dry Park Road along that. So high wildfire risk area, but also including a lot of that South Glenwood area, 1,000+ homes in that dense cluster.
Okay, so that fork down at the bottom is 4 Mile and Dry Park.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
Thanks.
Your house is right there.
Yeah.
I see my house.
Yeah, your house is right
The
there.
red and the white.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you. Counselor Small.
Thank you. I was vaguely aware that all of this improved technology was out there. I didn't know just how good it was. What would it cost to have this done for the to turn that rectangle that you have there sideways to cover the rest of Glenwood Springs?
I think about $200,000. And it's a question mark for me, how far through the fire district we could extend that. Could we push that really far down South Canyon? Could we push that to, Canyon Creek? But the core downtown area, we could certainly do for that. And it's not me doing the model. It's the-
Yeah, no, I would have.
You just collect the money and then.
You just,
Yeah.
just pass it on. Yeah.
So about 200,000. Thank you.
You got it. And a big, about a third of that is the data collection that gets the accuracy up from being in the 60s to almost 90, which I personally think is absolutely worth it. But that's a large part of that. And then other smaller portions of that are taking this results GIS, which the city has been wonderfully helpful on, and then just kind of operationalizing this into a project plan. And then, of course, one thing I forgot to mention too is that the prescription for that, the acres that we want to mitigate, there's 3,100 acres to get us to that nice white color. And that's about a $6.2 million investment, which I'm actually not daunted by. I think we're pretty good. We've got $1 million raised toward that already. And that will get us a nice way there. So we'll keep chipping away at that.
Thank you.
Council Schachter. No, wait, no,
Sorry.
we'll get there.
Thank
There
you.
go.
I have some friends at the bottom of that circle in 3 Mile, very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Have the residents been notified at this point, or is that a next step? Because they were claiming ignorance, even though I've been telling them.
We've done our best. So we've worked with all of the HOAs, Oak Meadows, Mountain Springs Ranch. We've worked a good deal and presented a couple times to the 3 Mile Mobile Home Park area. It is a tricky place to reach people because a lot of those homes that string along that road aren't unified under
they're
any umbrella.
Is it their best interest to contact you?
That'd be great.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
the more we can help spread the word. Everyone received a postcard in the mail, but
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Smith.
Thank you. Can you arrange through our staff to get us a copy of this slideshow?
I think it's in your packet, right?
No,
Okay.
Yes, we can do that.
thank you. And to follow the money, $200,000, the amount you think it would take to help create defensible space in the target area versus the $6 million to do the thinning?
200,000 to do the wildfire modeling is my best estimate for the downtown core, perhaps extending to a broader portion of the fire district.
Got it.
And then the mitigation work that follows is entirely separate. We got lucky in the 3 Mile and 4 Mile area to get there with only 3,000 acres. In Snowmass, they're looking at 9,000 acres for a smaller footprint, which is more of a $25 million raise.
And then the last number I have is a $1.5 million grant that you're helping distribute. What did that buy? What is it buying?
That supported this modeling in entirety. We are now at the point where the city's GIS specialist, Ben, is creating project polygons from this data right here. And then we have Mike Unkefer, who's a very experienced mitigation professional who is serving as kind of our ground truther. So taking all of those areas to mitigate and making sure that they're the best space. For example, you mentioned the 3 Mile Mobile Home Park. It's really tricky to mitigate the slope directly above that because thinning trees could create a mudslide risk. So we're balancing multiple hazards. And we will work with the city to issue an RFP to get contractors on the ground as soon as we possibly can. Also balancing fire risk of cutting down things in this dry season. But I fully expect that we will have a large dent of that mitigation done from phase 1 by the end of this year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Schachter.
Just real quickly, the area you've described, I believe, is all county and not city, at least the bulk of it. what's happening in terms of city, county, and you communication?
We work with Chief
Fires.
Chief Darris, we work with Steve, we work with Tim and with the finance department and with Mina Bolton, really all to kind of lead this forward. Up until, 3 weeks ago, we've really just been living in the land of data. And now we are switching to implementation. And that's where the city and the FD perhaps will take a larger role of contracting. And we're happy to support with contractor management. We'll continue to lead fundraising, raising as much as we can toward this, and just kind of continuing to move this along with whatever funds that we have available.
Counselor Smith.
But to restate Councilor Sumner's question, where's the county in all of this?
That's a good question. We welcome their participation and partnership.
Thank you. Counselor Townsend.
So I know at one point, a couple of years ago, there was some funding available to homeowners as far as doing mitigation. Has that been used up or is that still available?
We have shifted to a more private funding of that. We had originally had BLM funding, which was reduced in some of the federal shuffle. So we're still running that program. We've been able to kind of restand that up. We just awarded funds from our first round of 2026, I think to almost 40 homeowners. And now we are going in and we are prioritizing homeowners in this particular area. One of the interesting things, if you remember that green circle here, we are not seeing a lot of Mountain Springs Ranch, or even Oak Meadows homes show up on the priority list here. And part of that is because those homes are spaced very far apart. So this is the model of how to save a community. Homeowners still need to take charge of the model of how to save your home. And so we're trying to support their efforts to do that, even though it's not necessarily targeting this, $6 whatever million large scale fuel project.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? We'll see none. Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Anybody from the public have anything to say about the wildfire preparation and mitigation? We'll see none, then we'll thank you very much for being here.
Thanks. Special
And-
thanks to all of you. Thanks to Chief. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to Tim. Really great.
Anytime you have an update, please feel free.
Thanks.
to-
And we should
to come
have
back.
evacuation modeling in the next 2 months. So I'd love to come back and share with that.
Please do.
Thanks.
Please do. Love to see you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, before we move on, I'm going to have to fix something quick, and that is the Arts and Culture Board appointment. Lindsay Bobiak was, I remember now, was moved up to a permanent regular position from an alternate position on the Arts and Culture Board. So congratulations, Lindsay. That's what it was. Just couldn't think of it at that moment. Thank you. Moving on. Item 9, overview on the power grid and transmission system function.
Good evening, council. Give me 1 sec to get this up.
And I think we asked for that last meeting to be presented tonight.
Yeah,
So
see how responsive we are. We're here.
perfect. And thank you, Matt.
Good evening, council. I think the request was, how does this system function from Excel's perspective and from the city of Glenwood Springs perspective? I throw this map up there because this is Excel's transmission map. You blow it up, it goes across the entire state. They own a lot of transmission lines. The ones that we're mainly focused on is that black blob in the middle that says Hopkins. All of our substations are on here. You can see them labeled as Roaring Fork, Glenwood, Mitchell Creek. The Cardinal station has not made it onto the new map yet, but we do have a 4th substation that's just before the Newcastle substation. And then we go all the way over to the Rife Ute substation over there. So Excel owns Rifle, Newcastle, and Hopkins, and obviously the Shoshone Power Plant, which is a purple dot. That is kind of the world we live in for transmission for Excel. Obviously, it's fed from all kinds of directions, which is good for us. Our lines are based on a 69 kV. So they're 69,000 volts, which is a low voltage transmission line, basically. Usually they start at about 115 and go up. As you can see, there's 230s on here. The way the system functions is most of our power comes out of that Hopkins substation. It comes down and feeds Roaring Fork. You see the brown line that connects Roaring Fork and Glenwood, which we call North Glenwood, together. You can also see the green line that comes out of Hopkins, goes down to Shoshone, and then comes across as a 69 kV to the Glenwood substation. I know there's a lot on here and it's really hard to point at things, so I'm happy to try if you want me to. Obviously, this is Shoshone right here, the purple dot. Hopkins is this guy down here. And then everything west of that is what I'm talking about at this point. So when we say that we can be fed from two different directions, that is normally true. There is power coming from the west, from the Rifle substation to the Newcastle substation to Glenwood. They can feed us that direction. And there's power coming from the east, which is fed from Hopkins, either to Shoshone or down to Roaring Fork and up and around. Right now, Xcel is in the process of replacing things. They did that last year. Was it last year or the year before with us? Came through town and they replaced all the way up to the Mitchell Creek substation. They are working on the Rifle substation right now. From my understanding, it's basically taken apart, which is why we no longer have two feeds. That wouldn't have helped us in either of the power outages because they were both in Newcastle. So the way Xcel works, and they have recently, I actually attached their 2025 through 2027 fire mitigation plan to the packet. The way that they're working right now is a one-shot system, basically. Our substations work in a three-shot system. So if something happens on our system, the distribution system, there's a little thing called a recloser. And if it feeds a tie line out. We have a whole bunch of tie lines. They feed the entire city. We have, I think, 18 reclosers. If something happens on the distribution system that causes that recloser, which is a giant breaker, to go off, it will turn right back on again. And it'll do that 3 times to try to clear the fault. If it's a tree branch, it just hit it, it fell off. It'll do it 1 time and it'll turn it right back on. They're on a one-shot system. If something hits the system, it just turns it off. And their process, right or wrong, I think they're liable for a lot of things, so they're probably in the right on this, is they have to go find whatever hit the system. So they're high power lines. Usually it's something major that causes an issue. So they don't want to turn it back on because they're now liable for, if that creates a spark and goes into the mountains and creates a wildfire, they're kind of liable for that. We saw this with PG&E and we saw this in Denver. We've seen this all over at this point. So their new system in the driest part of the year is it's on a one shot, it just turns off. And then they have to physically inspect the line from Hopkins to wherever the problem potentially is. Could be all the way to Rifle. They have to lay their eyes on it. Whether that's a drone flight, a helicopter flight, somebody walking the line, whatever it is. The last power outage we had, you notice it was shorter. It was about 2.5 hours. Newcastle was off until 3:30 in the morning because we asked them to go from Hopkins to the Cardinal substation and clear that line. That giant tower outside of the Cardinal substation that brings power from the tower over to the substation is actually a switching tower. They can switch off to the west, they can switch off to the east, they can switch the Cardinal substation off, and they can all do it from basically Golden. It's this little push of a button. They cleared our line. They said, okay, you're good. We'll turn it on all the way to Cardinal, but everything thereafter is still off because we haven't looked at it yet. We don't know if just the power line that fell over, we all saw the photos of it, was the only thing that happened. They still have to clear the line. So that's why we got on faster than Newcastle did, is they agreed with us. They did this line first, and they turned us back on. I was hoping they would have done that in the last one, which was like 6.5 hours. We had some conversations with them, and hopefully in the future, this will go a little bit quicker. But that is basically how the city of Glenwood Springs is fed. There's paragraphs in there. There's a lot of maps. You can see our boundary area if you want to know that. But this is how the system actually functions, and that's why the power went out. So when I get phone calls and I see they're in South Glenwood, they're in East Glenwood, they're in North Glenwood, they're at the hospital, I'm like, that's a transmission problem. If I see a power outage and some calls that are coming from South Glenwood on Park East, that is a tie line issue internal to the city, okay? Something went wrong in the city. We've narrowed it down. We can fix that. When the entire city goes off, it's not a city problem. It is a city problem. It is our problem. We answer phone calls and we deal with it the best we possibly can. But if the entire city goes off, it's because the transmission line went off. So I've explained that to a lot of people over the last 4 weeks or so. I've kind of had this exact same conversation with a lot of the public. Hopefully the word is spreading. And we got about half as many phone calls the last power outage because I think that Breeze work, all the information on the website, just spreading the word of if the entire city is off, there's nothing really I can do about it except for call Lookout Mountain and Golden and say, what are we doing? Where are you starting? What can we turn back on? Even if there was a power outage between Mitchell Creek and Cardinal, say that line went down for some reason, they could in theory still turn Mitchell Creek all the way back to Roaring Fork on, and we can tie our own substations together, and I don't need that transmission line. If I can get power to Roaring Fork or North Glenwood, we can basically feed the rest of the city, not in a massive, it's 110 degrees outside and everybody's running the air conditioning, the tram is running, the pool is running. You start to melt lines at that point. But we have some pretty good capabilities of tying ourselves together as long as they can get power to one of our outer substations. And you can see there's 3 pathways technically because they can feed Shoshone in. They can feed from Rifle and they can feed from Hopkins. And they're very good to work with. Sometimes they're just not legally allowed to give us answers. They're like, we're working on it. We understand your request. I can't give you a better timeline than what it says on the power outage map because they're not allowed to. So if you're calling Steve or anybody's calling me or whatever, all I really am going to get from anybody is what the power outage map says, because that's the most up-to-date information that is being provided to Excel from their people, and they're just updating it as quickly as possible. Questions?
That was very informative. I had no idea, but this is great. So thank you. Questions to Matt. We'll start with Councilor Townsend.
Where's Hopkins? I'm trying to
It's
figure.
past CMC. So you go up CMC Road, you go past it, and you're heading towards Cottonwood Pass. On the right-hand side is a very large substation sitting there. You'll see it. That's Hopkins.
Okay. And then I know nothing about electricity. So you said our lines are lighter, 69 versus 231. Is that relevant in some sort of way?
It is a little bit because it's the height of the line and the vulnerability of the line. 69 kV lines are shorter in height. When they came through town and they replaced everything with taller poles, technically those are meeting the 115 kV line standards, and they're all metal now instead of wood. So they're upgrading their system so they're more fire resistant and they're higher up in the air so that things can't actually interact with them. 230, you get the tower poles, you know, the tri-tower poles, and there's just 3 massive lines going through and you up and up and up. They become less vulnerable to ground activity.
Thank you, Councilor Schmall.
What does become of the Shoshone plant? You say it's grounded. Does that mean they can't send power through the plant anymore?
I haven't got an answer on that one yet, but if you drive by, you'll see all 3 lines are tied together with a line going to the ground, which means it's grounded, which means that section is most likely dead. And any voltage that just happens to be traveling on it will be grounded so they know that they can work on it. I haven't got an answer on timeframes for Rifle. They're working on the transmission line between Rifle and here. I haven't got any answers.
I was going somewhere completely different. What, anybody, Carl, know what becomes of the Shoshone plant with the water transfer?
Yeah, it's going to operate as normal. Excel continues to own the plant. And the water right will continue to function normally for the plant. The goal is to then have it switch over if the plant goes offline to switch over to an in-stream flow that mimics what the plant would have been doing had the plant been on. So the expectation and the request of Excel is that it continue to operate the way it is. That's part of what they wanted out of the deal, is that the Shoshone plant is one of only a couple that can kind of restart without any other outside energy because it's spinning turbines with water. So it's important to kind of their portfolio right now.
Yeah, I don't understand. It's the cheapest electricity generated anywhere in the Western US.
And the plant could still be functioning right now because it can still supply up the 115 line to Hopkins. They're just grounding the things to the west.
Because they're working on it.
Councilor Schachter.
Yeah, we're not responsible necessarily, Matt, but is there is there a resource that our citizens can find easily that's more comprehensive about transfer switches, batteries, backup generators, as this becomes more frequent and people with medical issues or not want to have some kind of independence? Is there any comprehensive resource rather than fishing around on the web?
Kind of looking at Chief a little bit, because we've started this conversation of, should people be prepared for power outages? Yeah. In the wintertime, in the summertime, you should be prepared to survive on your own for basically 72 hours. And what we found with these power outages is that is not what people think about. They think the power is going to come back on in an hour and their washing machine is going to turn on, or they have a bottle in the closet that's only good for 8 hours. So those were some of the panicked phone calls that we were getting. It's like, we're 6 hours into my 8-hour tank. And the recommendations at that point was go to the hospital. But the hospital doesn't actually have the capabilities of supplying potentially that much oxygen and needs as an emergency center. They're running off a generator also. So it is actually something we probably should sit down and talk about, is what is preparedness when you live in the mountains and you're kind of stuck. Or you can leave your home and you can drive to wherever power exists, find a neighbor that lives in North Rifle and they still have power, and then you could plug in. It's not like they're stuck in their home. Maybe some people are. A lot of them aren't stuck in their home. They're just stuck there because they don't want to leave because they're comfortable there, but they may actually have to relocate in a situation like this temporarily.
I mean, it'd be nice if there were resources available, both private financing, a household, and or grants for others, still finding out, okay, I can get a transfer switch put in and use so many watts of generator, or I can need battery backup. I think that's going to be more and more the case. I don't think we're responsible for providing it, but if we can help provide the info, it might be helpful.
Sure. There are people sitting in this room that didn't even know the power went out because they have solar panels and batteries in their home.
Yeah.
They'll last for a duration.
Sure.
The sun doesn't come back out, kind of thing. But it is nice to have some kind of battery backup associated with it. And I was looking at it the other day, trying to figure out, what does an auction machine take? Can you go to Harbor Freight and buy one of these inverter, not a generator, but a battery backup? Could run it for 12 hours. That doesn't get you to 72 though.
No.
And how many generators do we want to have in town running? And maybe it's only 15 or 20 people. But I think about the retirement homes, the memory center, those kinds of things that may or may not have generation associated with them, and maybe they should. It's a conversation for the county and for the city to have.
And maybe Holy Cross can help us. They've done a pretty proactive program residentially. I don't know, but it'd be nice if we had some way our people could get resources without us having to provide them.
I could just add 2 points to this conversation, which is a great segue. We did get a couple calls. One particular individual is calling about their air tank going out. So they want the fire department to come over and bring air tanks. So when you talk to people, it's important that they understand that we cannot provide that service because the tanks we have are much, much smaller than a person's typically used to having at home. And those are for patients that we're dealing with in the field on a gurney or stretcher kind of situation. And Air Gas, which is one of the providers, is out in Silt or Newcastle, somewhere west of us. They're typically closed. And on that day, was a Saturday or Sunday, they're closed. So people can't reach them. So that's why we refer them to the hospital. But as long as you all understand, that's not a service that EMS can provide at all. Because again, for those exact reasons. Secondly, turns out that we are lacking in generators for our fire department. And this is not a plug for the budget or anything. It's more about education, that we don't have a generator for any one of our 3 stations. So Steve and I just recently had that conversation about what that can look like, because if these go to a prolonged period, protracted outage, that's clearly a necessary piece of equipment that we have to continue operating at least one of our 3 stations where they can all congregate and then dispatch from that location as well. So it's an ongoing conversation that we're having with Matt's team, our team, and certainly our city manager's office.
And I'm not presuming that we provide that service. I'm wondering if we can help coordinate information for people who want to provide their own.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I understood. And in that light, I just wanted to share with people why we can't provide that service.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Smith.
Thank you. And thank you. This is indeed very clear and quick and yet informative. In your background material, you talked about, I think in the context of Excel work, something called sectionalization. Is that what you just described, their ability to selectively turn on and off portions?
Correct.
And with that technique already available and work apparently going on to upgrade their primary lines in the vicinity, currently they're working on the rifle plant, you said. As they complete that work, will these outages actually reduce in frequency? Because they are now more resilient?
Moving everything from rifle to us to a 115 kV line will help. Taller poles, new line, and there'll be steel poles. So that will definitely help. Now, their process when something hits the line and turns it off will not change most likely. But how they turn it back on potentially could help us, because if it was something from up in the CMC area, they can't feed us from Hopkins if it's in the CMC area, but maybe they could feed Hopkins to Shoshone, or if it's on the Shoshone line, then they could go for the rifle and start working their way back and turn us on sooner kind of thing too. It's nice having the 3 points, because depending on where the issue most likely is, they can start turning things on away from the issue and turning us back on sooner. Instead of having to go from Hopkins to rifle every single time and check every single bit of line. Here's a switch. Okay, I'm good from here to the switch. Turn that section back on, which is exactly what sectionalizing is.
Is this, this upgrade, higher lines, steel poles, what we saw on West Midland last year when they were, or year before when they were out there?
Yeah, they've completed everything from the Mitchell Creek substation on Midland, right in front of Lowe's there, all the way back to the North Glen substation.
That's the kind of work they're doing,
Correct.
what we saw.
Yep.
In our
And they're continuing that. They're working on landfill sections in the next year, I think, and they're working over in Newcastle. It's a lot of work, obviously.
Thank you.
You'll even see it going all the way to Junction if you're paying attention on the right-hand side. They're moving everything to steel poles and taller poles.
The city's climate action plan includes a strategy, E 2.1, to install some city-owned generation and storage capacity, solar and batteries.
Mhm.
As that happens, will that power source be sectionalized to ourself? Or does it just be tied right back into the same grid with the same limitations?
So basically what you're talking is like a microgrid situation.
Yeah.
Call the city as a microgrid. So you can put a battery in, and we've had a lot of conversations with battery makers. The problem with batteries is they take a while to charge, and they will discharge over a short period of time, which is 1 to 2 hours. And then they have to charge again. And so you only get one charge and discharge out of a large battery in a day. So we would have to have 8 of them stacked up. Say it was a 1 megawatt battery, 8 of them stacked up to cover an 8-hour period if you wanted to cover that. But the city runs between 12 and 24 megawatts. So you would have to 12 times that on a low section to actually cover the city itself. Now, is that an interesting thought on, say, tie lines that have high importance? Potentially. You know, will 1 hour or 2 hours get a health center up and running and let them down, you know, get ready to be out of power basically, instead of it just immediately turning off and then scramble mode? Could that potentially help? Yes. Can you buy rice generators? Sure. You can buy a natural gas diesel generator of a 1 megawatt or bigger size. Where are you going to sit it? And is everybody going to be happy with the exhaust coming off of it kind of conversation? We could run 12 of those things and probably supply most of the power for the city, but they're not meant for that. They're meant for short-term kind of capacity backup. And you'd have to buy a bunch of them depending on what your intentions are.
So the 16 megawatt hours is contemplated in the climate action plan is the amount that would only last a couple hours.
So what was anticipated in the climate action plan wasn't so much battery backup or microgridding. It was trying to cut the peak.
Okay.
So taking the 24 megawatt peak down to 20, 19, 18, whatever we could get, because it happens over about a 2-hour period, happens twice a day, which is why I've been having a lot of conversations with battery people. I'm like, no, I want to charge it and discharge it and then charge it again and discharge it. So it'd be 4 cycles in one day. None of them are super happy with that. But the whole thing was trying to cut the peak. Because if everybody could cut their peak that's on the transmission line, the transmission lines would be more appropriately sized for the future, because they're all sized for everybody's peak happening basically at the same time. They don't all, but they overlap each other enough that those transmission lines have to be oversized to accommodate for those peaks occurring at the same time.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Townsley, please.
I had 2 questions. That was actually the redundancy. I think you answered that pretty well. The 72-hour period that you talk about, where does that number come from? Why are we using 72 hours?
Mina quoted that to me the other day. It was in some regulations that if you, for preparedness, you should be ready to be on your own for 3 days.
So it's not a hard number. That's
No.
just a,
Right. It's a
Okay.
planning number.
The planning number.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And that's a good planning number for the winter too. I-70 shuts down, can't get food to the grocery store, whatever is happening associated with that. It's not just for wildfire. It's just a planning number. You should be at all times kind of prepared for a duration on your own. You can pick 72, 24, 48
2 weeks.
weeks.
Yeah, let's do Dave again.
Just a quick follow-up question to that. Are we doing anything from an outreach standpoint to, it's obviously pretty high in people's minds now because we've gone through it twice. Are we doing anything as far as, I've never heard the 72 hours. That's probably longer than I would have thought we needed, but are we doing anything to try to get that out to people so that they can be prepared for that?
We're trying to create kind of the comprehensive, website and information that you guys are talking about. I can send you what we've got so far. And yeah, we do want to put it up on our website and start to push it out. These things are going to keep happening. They're going to be long. They're going to be more frequent. And, Holy Cross is in the same boat that we are and everybody else is. And I know people, Aaron's phone will blow up when our power goes out for a while. But there's not much we can do about it right now. And we're going to have to get a little bit used to it. So yes, I think
Just and getting people. so they're prepared for it.
information out to people is important.
Okay, Councillor Schmo.
Matt, did I understand that what's shown on your map there is a 69 kV line, that's XL's improvements have been to the poles or to the line capacity also?
So both.
So what's shown as 69 now is 115?
No.
Oh,
They have not upgraded their transformers on either end to run 115 to that line, but that is the intention in the future. I can't get if that's a 5-year intention or a 25-year intention from them, but the cabling, the poles, the heights, everything has been upgraded to accommodate 115 kV.
I got you. Okay, thank you. Understand better.
Thank you.
And all of our transformers in our substations are 69 115s because we're waiting for that day. So when they switch over, our transformers in the substations will actually be slightly more efficient.
Right.
The lower the voltage, the less efficient they are. The higher the voltage, the more efficient. It won't make a ton of difference, but it's kind of interesting.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Weimer.
I was concerned to learn about the fire departments and not having backup generators. Does that mean, obviously in the middle of the night, they don't have power, they're mobilizing in the dark?
They have limited power there. You're right. Just like these emergency. Yeah, but that would be it. And so the question there, there's several questions or concerns are obviously, right? Number one, our communication systems,
Right.
And charging batteries and things, manual door opening and access in and out of the fire station, food and everything like anybody else would have. But yeah, they would be very limited and we'd have to consolidate our 3 stations all down to 1 station. So that would affect our response times as well.
Do you have budget estimates, chief, on what it would take?
I don't, I hate to commit to something like that, but I say anecdotally,
Yeah.
north of 100,000,
For all 3 stations.
1 station. Yeah, they're not cheap, and Matt might know more about that than I certainly do, but that's kind of a rough idea of what we're talking about now. We're in the process of looking into what that exactly would look like and
think we'd
RFPs
love-
and things like
We'd
that.
love to see some details so that we could act on that.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And I do want to say that if you've noticed on the projects we've been doing over the years, the pump stations, the lift stations, tanks, everything that needs power, we have been stacking a generator adjacent to it. Because the second a lift station goes down, people don't stop flushing their toilets because the water is still coming So that lift station could overflow. We stack pumps at them now. So we're trying to accommodate the same thing as as chief is basically. We need one at Fleet because the pumps don't work for fuel if we don't have one there. So there's a couple gaps that we have internally. But you'll also notice that if the power goes down for a duration of time, cell phones stop working because the
Right.
batteries within the towers themselves cut out.
Right.
Traffic signals stop working. You know, everything kind of slowly shuts down.
Right. Right. Okay, thank you. Anybody from the public? I think I already did that. There's nobody here, but there seems to be a hand up online.
Tony.
Tony Hershey, please. Got 3 minutes and please stay within the topic of the agenda item.
Can you hear me okay, Mr. Mayor?
We can hear you.
So I wanted to first just thank Matt Langhorst. If it wasn't for him, our power, for a lengthy power outage would have stayed out as long as Newcastle. He's very responsive. I'm just troubled, and the city manager said it, I think, that we just have to get used to it. And I appreciate, and I'm not one to complain, as Councilman Zelinski will tell you, but I think it's not these long 6 hour, 8 hours. It's these short breaks, and they've been going on for a long time. Well, before I ran for council, I recall coming to council and complaining about this. It doesn't, in this modern community, in this modern world, it affects the jail, it affects the sheriff's office, it affects the courthouse, it affects multiple companies. It shut the elevators. I never knew this, but the constant on and off affects them. Air conditioning, heating, all the dependencies that we have on internet, me working from home, a lot of people who are telecommuting. I think even a short break really has to be addressed. So I hope that the city manager is incorrect, that we don't have to get used to this, that this is something that we can address. And Excel is, your customer, you pay them. I understand like like that Holy Cross has issues too, and others have issues, and we can't just like switch like shopping at Target or Walmart. But I think it's something that I really appreciate Steve bringing forth, and the Matt talking about, to ensure that we are at least looking at this and it's a bigger that it doesn't become a bigger problem. Because again, a 6 hour outage, of course, is a big, huge issue. 72 hours, that would be scary. But if we're all ready, I don't think anybody's going to die. My bigger concern is the effects on the economy, the effects on the tourist community, the effects on individuals who live here, who have to work from here and get to work, and cell phones start to go down and power gets to go down. And as the chief would tell you, finally, I think there are major safety issues that go beyond just like 72 hours without electricity that are affected by these constant outages. So I really appreciate Councilman Smith and everyone bringing this, and Councilman Scheckner bringing this. So thank you, everyone. It's nice to talk to you again.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hershey. Anybody else online? See none. Excellent. Okay, so I see no more public comment. I don't think there's any action required of us. So no more questions. Thank you very much. Thanks for doing this, Matt. Moving on to item 10, our first action for tonight, resolution 2026-16 on-demand price change. Ryan Gordon, please. Uh-oh.
Their mouse is out of juice or something.
Power outage.
Power outage in the mouse.
Oh, that's my mouse. Sorry. Over here.
Oh, that's your mouse. No, then there's a miss. Oh, here's a mouse. My gosh. Tough day. Tough day out here. I need your help, Liz. Might not look in the right spot here.
There's a folder on the desktop.
I gotta go to Zoom, right? All right, here we go. No. This one here, right? Yep. All right.
Over there. All right.
All right. Good evening, Council. Ryan Gordon, city engineer, here to talk about the on-demand. We had a work session last council meeting contemplating raising the fares for on-demand. The reason is it's currently $1. It doesn't carry the $1 fare doesn't cover, and any significant portion of the program itself. So we wanted to start to adjust. And so in your packet, we have two options. One option is just a across the board, raise the fare to $3 per ride. We took a step back and said, okay, there could be another nuanced way of looking at this. And so what we've done is divided the city into 3 separate zones, kind of the concept of, you pay one cost within one zone. And what we have kind of at least penciled out is $2 within a zone. You cross a zone from one, so you go to 2 zones, it'd go up to $3, and you go 3 zones, it'd be $4. We are contemplating and think that $1 a ride to a RAFTA facility, whether it's a park and ride, whether it's the BRT station or a bus station, would just simply be $1. Again, to try to create that motivation to get back onto public transportation. So this is our first step into kind of getting into a more nuanced way of trying to get the project to pay for itself. So that in a nutshell is what we're looking at. Looking to council today I guess there's 3 options. One option is to do nothing, leaving it at simply $1, or option 2 of just a general raising it to $3 or something else just across the board, or kind of the nuanced version that's on your screen in your packet with the map in different zones. So I'll turn it over for you guys for questions.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. We'll start with Council Schachter.
Well, I guess the first question would be, what kind of data do we have, if any, regarding, do we have enough data from Jacob or anybody to say, here's what's happening between zones? Here's what the ultimate fee structure or revenue will look like if we implemented this based on what we know about ridership, or do we not know?
Yeah, so we haven't gone through that exercise with Jacob or others to look at what sort of revenue changes this would make. The map generally is divided geographically. We kind of tried to take the stab of, making an analogous of shipping a package, right, based on weight, but based on distance. So again, sort of the south part of Glenwood is more geographically isolated a little bit further. And so that's kind of how we broke this apart. We haven't, again, done the analysis on the revenue generation from the different zones.
The other thing, and Councilor Weimer's idea of, or incenting the RAFTA connection, it seems to be built in here. I don't know about interim bus stops. So that's the way to be. There's ways to use that, not to go to interim, but the west and south. But I'm also wondering, Ryan, do we have any, other than intuitively, do we have any data from other communities as to where the threshold of, I assume these are somewhat arbitrary price increases? Do we have anything at this point also that's less than subjective that says, hey, there's a fair threshold where ridership plummets or is not affected by other systems or anything like that to justify what we're doing?
So sort of, yes and no. There's not a lot of data, at least locally, on the fares, right? If you look across the board, a lot of the fares are really cheap or free. Carbondale, for example, their downtowner is free. And so we do know that the overall company that manages the system has different systems kind of throughout the region, throughout the nation. And so they definitely see some, that this would definitely support it. In fact, last at the work session, the gentleman who was here discussed, and he thought that, raising the fares, would not dent the ridership. In fact, that we have plenty of desire. So we really don't have that information. Anecdotally, Lee brought to the table last time, right? If you wanted to take an Uber from City Hall to Walmart, it's about a $15 ride, right? So if we kind of look at that portion, right, there definitely is still, I think, room to grow for this service, given that it is a door-to-door service and extremely convenient. So this is kind of part of the data finding process for this system, right? We have, the other aspect of on-demand was to kind of figure out where the demand is in the city. for future transportation bus stops, for example. This specifically would help us determine, what are those price points where we would see some sort of drop off from ridership. And just again, one of the things that we are very cognizant of and really want this system to be, if we actually continue with this system long term, it has to stand up on its two legs, right? We just can't simply be subsidizing a system just with dollars. We actually need some sort of revenue generation, and this is the first step to that.
The question you're asking is a good one. We were the first ones to charge any fee in this kind of RAFTA sort of thing, and we did that with their blessing to see. What we don't know is what the elasticity of this price is, and this is going to give us some data on that, but we really don't know.
Thank you, Councilor Townsley.
Actually, my question was a lot like Sumner's, but you said you don't have that information yet as far as, okay, does doing a 2, 3, or 4 generate more revenue, or just 3? Is that something that we would have before we would take action on something? As far as, are you getting that data? Is that something that's Jacob's working on, somebody's working on?
Yeah, so we don't have that now. We can try to see if Jacob can parse some of that information out. I don't know, and it may be something not with Jacob, but with the downtowner organization itself, of trying to map out where people are going and kind of look at that data. So we haven't done that exercise, but we certainly can if we want to do that prior to initiating a fare increase. But again, we haven't started that effort.
I mean, I would think that if we had that info, I'd be in a lot better position to say, okay, if everything is one fare, that seems like that'd be a lot simpler for people to understand. But if we made a lot more money and it carried itself a lot better by changing some of these, things and charging per zone, I would kind of at least want to, if that information was available without going too much trouble, I'd rather have that before I said, yeah, let's make a recommendation one way or the other.
Sure. And regardless of that, our plan to implement whatever fare change is to, get the information out, right? Posters, in the vehicles themselves, right? To really try to make sure everybody's really aware what's going on. But I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Thank you, Councilor Schmall.
Yeah, the packet said that we would have those numbers on the DS tonight. If you don't know, why would we guess at a fare increase? You know what the cost per fare is. You've got all of the cost data that's gone into this, right? So you can apply that cost to the fares and see what the deficit is between the cost per fare and the revenue per fare at your $1. I think what you're telling us is that if we go to $2, or if we go to one of the recommendations here, it's going to give you more information about what the tolerance level is. And I don't think it is, because I think it's still too cheap with what you're proposing to get a realistic view of what the price tolerance is on this service. We're getting a whole lot more people addicted to the heroin, and then we're going to say, oh, shoot, it's just going up 6 times in price because we can't support it anymore. Do you see what I'm saying? The big spread between reality and the data that we're gathering. I think it's a big spread. Like you said, $15 for a Uber. We're probably not $15, but I bet we're more like 8 or 10. And you're talking about increasing the fare by another $1 or $2. It's not going to tell you anything. And we need to know before everybody gets addicted to this heroin.
So just to clarify, do you feel like if we raise our prices from $1 across the board to $3 across the board, there wouldn't be any change in the ticket sales, right? I mean, there is no price elasticity essentially, right? I mean, if I'm hearing you right, I think you're saying unless we get up to $6, $8, $10, we won't really see any change in usage. Did I hear that right?
That's what I'm saying, yeah. It's not going to tell you anything. You think you're going to get more information, but you're not. It's still so cheap that it's ridiculous.
Is it okay if I butt in?
It's okay, but again, back to council, just letting you know, let's stick to questions.
Yeah, we're doing.
And then let's do comments when we have a motion. Okay.
It was, my comments were based on the question that's not getting answered that we were told we were going to have in the packet.
Right. But let's stick to questions. Matt.
Well, I guess my 2 cents in this conversation is one, yes, we should have had that in the packet. I didn't realize it was there. Downtowner has all of that information. That's how we've been basing the hotspots because we know where they left and where they went to. So we should be able to get that from Downtowner, not even using Jacob. That is all information that they gather while they're doing it. And just for some reality check, the $1 covers 1 month. So you'd have to raise the rate to $12 per ride, assuming they're all the same. You know, you could do 15 for this one and 7 for that one or whatever it is. You basically have to go to $12 per ride to actually cover this. And I think the process that we're trying to get through, and we didn't provide the information, so we definitely need to get that to you, is if it was $6 from here and $5 from there to here and 3 from here and 4 to there, would that cover enough to make this a viable actual program other than the data collection program that it currently is? Because that's what it is. And I kind of keep restating that to everybody. We're collecting data to try to figure out how the fixed route bus system should change first. And then is this a supplement to the fixed route bus system? Because we only have a finite amount of dollars to accommodate for both of them. Does this need to be $6 a ride to accommodate for it to continue along with a switch to the fixed route bus system so that we can intermingle both of those things at the same time? Or do we have to bag this thing and just use the data after 4 years and just move the fixed route bus system kind of thing? So legitimate question and comment. I think that Downtowner has all that information. And if we didn't put it in the packet, that is something you would probably want to know so you can make a good decision on where these are going to go.
So you can take the Downtowner data and apply it to those 3 zones and figure out what the revenue would be. You could actually do that. You could do a pro forma.
Yeah,
on that.
ridership, everything up to this point, they know where they started and they stopped. They should be able to
So you
switch
could totally
to
apply it
other
to this and come back with the pro forma and say, this is how much it would be.
And if they need some fine tuning, Jacob could probably help them with that.
Okay. Good to know.
But $12 is a magic number.
I know.
Right now.
Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, please.
So in looking at this, I wonder if there isn't a model that could be a little, encompass a little bit more equity. I look at the zones and there's some areas of town that are served without any transportation options, not close to a bus stop. So to charge arguably more, because to get from South Glenwood to the Meadows, you'd have to cross 3 zones. And so you're going to pay the most, yet you are the least served population transportation wise in our community. So I'm wondering if we could look at that with like a slightly different lens and try and find a little bit more equity, because I think what we're still trying to gather is the data that would help inform that last mile as well as our fixed route. And I'm afraid we're going to artificially affect the data we might gather by pricing it in a way that doesn't have equity. So I feel like before I was to take a decision on this, I need a teeny bit more information to look at this in a more kind of holistic lens, even if it's just a couple dollars, because we still have 2 more years of the match funding from RAFTA that gives us time to analyze this. And so I'm just wondering if there isn't a more comprehensive way to look at that before we make a decision.
When you say equity, you mean fairness?
I
Or do you mean?
I feel like the impact, when there's a community or a population that doesn't have an alternative, I think that they rise to a little different level of like recognition. That zone 2 has Ride Glenwood and multiple bus stops running right down the middle of it, accessible for a lot of those neighborhoods where parts of zone 1 and parts of zone 3 really don't. And so I just wonder if we wouldn't be impacting the data we're gathering by putting in a pricing structure that changes those behaviors kind of too soon before we get enough data. Does that make sense? So I'm wondering if we couldn't look at this in a little bit more holistic manner before we are asked to make a decision on it.
Thank you. Councilor Weimer.
Remind me the financials behind this. So it's a couple of years of a match with RAFTA. Is that right?
Right. So currently the RAFTA is paying for 50% of this program.
What are we paying for?
We are paying this year slightly over $500,000.
So $500,000.
That's correct.
What we,
Food, right?
what did we pay last year?
Last year was slightly less. We added some capacity. One of our goals was to try to keep down the wait times. They were creeping up into the 30 and 40 minutes. So we added some more capacity, which obviously increased the cost.
Okay.
But then as Councilor Zelinski said, the program is funded 50% for 3 years. So we have nominally 2 more years. We started in May, right? So we have 2 more years of the current fee structure from the grant perspective.
So to reiterate a couple of things that we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Questions?
Questions.
I get a cure for that.
Let me see if I can form. Jeopardy.
Yeah, sorry.
Question.
Let's try to do questions and then.
What would, so I think Matt said something about $12. What would be break even for us?
That's correct. The base numbers, right, is $12 would get us to break even for the system, for the program.
And given that our stated goal for the first 3 years or even the first year, our stated goal was to learn about how we are addressing unmet demand. And that is our primary goal. How are we progressing against that goal? What have we learned other than people like $1 taxi rides?
Right. Yeah. So I think we're actually making, really good strides. So, and I don't have this up here, but, the heat maps that we've generated from the Ride Glenwood On Demand program definitely show areas within Glenwood where there is a lot of unmet demand from, let's say, the fixed route system. So I think we are starting to really get ideas and really pinpoint where the hotspots are or where people choose to use this service. So I think in that regards, we are really developing a lot of really good information. And so we are actually going to be taking that data as we're working with RAFTA, as they're going through sort of an overall master plan for their system of where those crossovers and synergies.
And if we do a fare increase, whether it's to $3 or any other increase, are we going to learn more about unmet demand, or are we simply going to learn elasticity?
I think primarily the second. I think we will still see where the demand is, right? I think one thing we'll find out is that if we increase the fares and we still see generally the same number of ridership or the same heat maps, we will know that there is still significant demand in those areas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Schachter.
I'm wondering, Mr. Mayor, if I make a motion now that would enable discussion and perhaps even based on what I've heard postpone this.
Sounds good.
Questions first.
They'll be included. We can still ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna allow that so we can move on. Absolutely.
Wow.
You?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor, then for the purpose of discussion as well as what I've heard, I would move that we postpone any action on resolution 2026-16 to at least our next meeting, if not further, based on information that we're requesting.
Okay, that's a motion to continue, basically.
Yeah.
And I need a second. Get Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
I second that motion.
Okay, thank
Now we
you.
can do discussion.
Now we're gonna have to vote on it. So,
Oh, okay.
there's a motion to continue.
Don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Can I
Before we
clarify that part
Yeah.
of this is you need to get your questions answered so we know what to come back with on the continuing?
Right.
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna get
Going
there.
to Counselor Smith's
Yeah.
point about
Vote
having
on that
questions.
We're gonna
before we
get
have
there.
question
That's correct.
discussion.
Yeah.
Right, now let's discuss. And yes, I want to include all the questions you have. And I want to give staff direction at the end of this to where we're gonna go with this, or what you guys have in mind. So with that, we'll start with Counselor Smith.
Thank you. And I proceed, just a point of procedure. Thank you for the notion of continuing with the questions in order to inform that continuance. Opportunity also for comments to inform that continuance?
Yes.
Want to do those in separate chunks?
No, do it right now.
Okay.
Yep, let's go.
Thank you. Has the Transportation Commission reviewed this fare change proposal?
So not this specific one, but we've had discussions with them on where does the Ride Glenwood On Demand go?
Okay, then I will slip to comment that since Transportation Commission meets in 4 days, 5 days, it would be good to get their input on this. Yes, they've followed the hot maps, but I think they've got some expertise there on transportation interrelationships, and it's worth taking it to them. Thank you. Kind of back to basics, back to root questions. The staff presentation for the earlier meeting in the work session highlighted or pointed out what we've been highlighted here, that using private similar services, taxi, Uber, Lyft, cost somewhere between $12 and $16 per ride to get across town. Why are we using public funds to run a service in competition with private enterprise?
So I wouldn't say that they compete. As if you took a taxi, for instance, you are getting into a car by yourself and you're going from your destination, your origination to your destination without stops, right? So this is really the microtransit system is sort of an expansion of the public transportation system, whereas, you know, you're riding with other folks. And clearly the data, right, shows that when you call a Ride Glenwood On Demand vehicle, it may take 5 minutes, it may take 45 minutes. And to get from your origination to destination is likely not without stops or picking up people, right? So there is a convenience factor when you do take a private service, right? So this is of the ability to, again, service people who don't currently have public transportation or a way of traveling. And again, there's not the level of convenience you have with, like I said, a taxi service.
Thank you. I was, again, mixing questions and comments. I was pleased to hear Matt remind us that an original route purpose, and Councilor Weimer has highlighted this too, original route purpose was to figure out data on transportation, on transit, including, or maybe especially for the fixed route service. Some of the notes in the background materials for last meeting and this meeting talk about getting improved information to make this service work better. And that may be okay, but are we indeed keeping an eye on the original purpose, which is looking at the comprehensive transit network in order to use the data from this experiment for all those purposes?
Yeah, I would say we are. And I think one thing that we kind of have an eye out to, right, is there's lots of different aspects, but one of the things is transportation in general as an umbrella, right? Again, that maybe it includes bike share. We've talked to WeCycle about bike share. Maybe it includes on demand. Maybe it includes fixed route, some sort of hybrid of all of them, right? The idea is to provide a public transportation system for the citizens of Glenwood within the budget that is supplied from the bus tax. And again, part of the goal is obviously to find where the demand is for fixed route, but part of this too is to see the viability of these different transportation ideas and concepts. So again, I don't think that we, believe that on demand is the end goal, right? It is expensive, and while it may not be as premium service as a car share or Uber, I mean, it is pretty darn, very convenient, right? From that perspective, right? So I think there's a lot of different facets here, and absolutely the first primary one is to find out where the areas are where people need and demand rides and want to be dropped off to inform all of these decisions.
Thank you. And building on that and building on Councilor Zelinski's observation about fairness or practicality of the zone selections, particularly as it relates, for example, to South Glenwood, Southwest Glenwood. I just concur and add to that fair aspect of that zone choice to being sure that we are indeed learning how a comprehensive transit system can better serve Southwest Glenwood, which has been without transit service of any sort until now. Seeing what things in addition to this can serve out there. So thanks for keeping that in the mix. If indeed there are 2 more years left on the current RAFTA first mile, last mile grant, I think, correct?
That's correct.
Why are we reapplying next month?
The applications are due in August
For 2 years
for next year,
for money for
for the next grant cycle.
the next, so we don't have 3 years worth of money, we have 3 years worth of what?
So we apply every year. The grant monies aren't there in perpetuity. Like we know many grant cycles, they are not always funded. So every year we have to reapply for the monies.
So the 3-year concept is your experimentation?
No, the 3 years is what RAFTA has discussed is their goal for the first last mile grant monies for these programs.
So their overall program.
Correct. Yeah. Just like many annual grants that we get a 5311 grant to help subsidize part of the Ride Glenwood fixed route, right? We have to apply every year for that. It's just not you apply once, you get it for the rest of your life type of thing.
Okay, thank you for that. We already know essentially that a $1 fare overall generates 10 to 12% rides to primary RAFTA stops. I think that was the number that's been included in the
I think
package.
that's correct. Yeah.
If we're looking for new measures of interest and elasticity and rider response, why keep that key portion the same? If indeed half of our money for this program is coming from a first mile, last mile funding source that is intended to boost regional transit ridership, why not make that 0 and see what that does? We already know what $1 does to the RAFTA stops. Why not make it 0 and see what that does to the RAFTA stops?
I think that's a fair consideration.
Great. I'll translate that into at least my suggestion that you, if indeed this motion passes and action on this gets postponed, that I'd sure encourage you to include that as one of the options.
And just a quick follow-up. As the RAFTA monies dissipate, one of the ideas that RAFTA has said would RAFTA would pay for those trips. So again, the trips to transit centers, right? When we start pulling back the RAFTA money, that would be a contribution that they would continue.
Great. All the more reason to, if it's going to likely be 0 someday, let's find out just take 0 out for a ride and see how people respond. Would be my suggestion. And with that, thank you very much.
Can I make one comment on the question?
Please.
So I thought about that. We've thought about this a little bit. Yeah, back and forth with Lee a little bit on it. Was if you make it 0 to a RAFTA bus stop, the hotspots in town are the Meadows, Walmart, and City Market. RAFTA bus stop, RAFTA bus stop, RAFTA bus stop. So what information are you really going to collect other than they figure out it's 0 to go 50 feet away from where I want to go, or I can pay $3 or $1 to go to the front door. So I thought you might get a little bit of mixed signal if you make something 0 or less than the other one. And I thought the $3 was great because it's equitable across the whole entire board versus trying to figure out who's equitable, who's not, whose zone, what other zone it is. So just my personal opinion is like maybe flat across the board as a consideration. We'll get you the data that you're asking for, but making something 0, they will figure out a way around that and they will utilize it against you because there are bus stops all over town and some are major. If you made it a major bus stop, that's your hot zones right there. and they will deliver you to the front door basically for $0. So you're really getting a true relationship of what people are trying to do. Are they going to the bus or are they just walking across the parking lot to City Market?
Thank you for that, for in effect clarifying my question. My question was based on tonight's packet.
Sure.
We suggest a fare schedule that includes $1 for the West Glenwood Park and Ride and for 27th Street, not for any RAFTA stop. So assuming that line in your fare schedule, I would suggest be 0 for those two primary stations, which are a little less prone to that cheating.
So just thought processes to throw out there, because even those two stations themselves are very close to places that people would like to go.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Townsley, please.
So that I kind of was going to bring that up too, is people are going to game the system very quickly.
I forgot we defined the two, but somebody will game the system on that one.
The one, just real quick question I have, $12, is that $12 covers the cost of this for our half while RAFT is paying for the other half? Or is that assuming RAFT is not paying anything? $12 is what a ride is going to cost. It's either 6 or 12.
No,
depending on-
12 is the cost without the RAFTA monies.
Without the
Yeah,
RAFT money.
that's the
Okay.
cost of the program.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Schachter.
Thank you. Some of my questions have been answered. Let me, one point of clarification, Ryan, our known budget for transportation from tax revenue, not from RAFTA grants, it's about 1,617 a year. Is that roughly correct?
I think it's closer to about 1.9.
Yeah, it's almost 2.
Okay, that's 2 million. That if RAFTA weren't helping us, that would be $2 million that we generate that would be used for whether it be on demand or fixed route. That's all the money we have.
That's correct. If we use the concept that the bus tax pays for public transportation.
And right now, generally RAFTA is throwing in what, another close to 2 million all in?
So RAFTA doesn't pay for any of our ride Glenwood, our fixed routes.
So right now, all the money we're getting from RAFTA is mostly for the new on demand.
All grant monies from RAFTA are for the on-demand system.
Okay.
So our fixed route system right now, this next year will probably cost $1.9 million.
Just wanted to clarify that. I think that whatever, if we do a rate differential, I think the 2 park and rides, albeit people may take advantage. I think Mitchell made the point that should be lower, whether it's 0 or not, I don't know. I'm not ready to say that. But I do want to express as a comment, a frustration up here on the dais that I don't know if it's shared by others or not. We are being asked, because this is an operational program and you've come back with our requests, but we're being asked so often to just do segments of stuff without a big picture. You guys have big, in other words, I'm a little frustrated that, God, I'm being asked to make decisions and we're going to gather data. That's all good. But I still don't have a clear picture of, all right, how will on demand deal with our ride Glenwood, which was a major motivation, which will ultimately deal with what happens with Southbridge, what happens with RAFTA's future plans. That I'm making decisions in micro things without a big transportation picture. And I know you've been charged with that, but for me, it's very difficult. I'd almost rather that, okay, ride Glenwood, we shouldn't decide at all. You guys figure it out, get the data and come back to this letter. Don't even ask us. But really what I'd rather have up here on the dais is a greater vision of how this all fits together, instead of saying, oh, we're going to deal with this little piece this month because it's in front of us. And next month we might have to deal with something else. It's a frustration, not necessarily directed at you internally, that makes it very difficult. I just wanted to share that as a comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, in response to that, I definitely agree. I mean, one of the things we have planned is actually coming up as a work session on the transportation system. So the bus tax, looking at where that falls, where are these programs. Like I mentioned, WeCycle is something that has been discussed as a bike share program. How does that fit? Again, this is now another program that costs money. How do we play within our sandbox, right? And so That is something that we're working on to bring to council as a work session of overall transportation system. And perhaps this is the cart before the horse kind of situation. But that is something that we are looking at and definitely want to have a discussion with you guys.
Thank you.
Councilor Schmo.
What are the chances that when you apply for the next year's worth of RAFTA grant, they say, sorry, we don't have it?
Right now, they have said that we are funded through the next couple years, but just like anything, there is a chance, but I think it's pretty low in discussions with RAFTA leadership.
I'm just trying to understand. You say you have to apply every year. Usually apply means maybe you get it, maybe you don't. Maybe I don't understand the lingo.
So real quick, the structure of the first last mile grant structure, which is where this money's come from. We have applied for and got some of those monies for some of our rapid flash beacons over on 6th Street and some sidewalk improvements. The way RAFTA has structured it is they want programs to be paid from the first last mile before, let's say, construction projects, right? So they are focused on these programs being funded. In addition, so Basalt now I think is on their 4th year of on-demand. So they have gone past the quote unquote 3-year horizon. So RAFTA definitely recognizes the value of these programs and how they fit into their overall transportation system. So again, they have told us they are planning on funding these programs, to the timeframes that they've told us before.
Are we collecting any data on users whose this is their only means of getting to where they were trying to go?
So we don't have that information, right? We could start sort of a survey with users on the system themselves, but we're not capturing any personal data from these trips.
And one last comment, if the difference between raising fares from raising by $1 or raising by $2 and raising to $5 or $6, that $4 in between would go towards reducing our $500,000 that we're putting into this. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. Any revenue generated from this comes off of our contribution and not the grant contribution.
And by raising the rates by more than $1 or $2, are you not getting more information about elasticity of fares than less information about elasticity of fares? In other words, when is the user who has a vehicle who could go wherever they wanted to go with the ultimate immediacy that is between this service and Uber, right? It's the premium, drive yourself, but it's the one you don't want the most. Where do you find out where that break point is? How do you find that out until you raise the fares to learn the elasticity?
I would certainly agree. Without raising the fares, we're never going to be able to figure that out. I'll put it this, I am not aware, and there maybe Jacob or someone else could figure out with modeling where those breakpoints are, but I don't think you know until you start, raising rates and starting to try to, suss that out.
And then the follow-on logic on that is that the data that you're gathering with artificially low rates is misleading data, is my contention. So the lower you have the rates, the more inaccurate your data is, because it's so much better than any other option.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I would slightly disagree that with the low rates, right, which may not give you the true people who would use the system if it's more money, right? But again, I think what we've determined are the areas in Glenwood which are currently underserved that have a demand for some sort of public transportation. But I think you're right. I mean, I do think, raising the rates will help to kind of clarify that information as well.
And since you have no data on who that have been using the service have no other means of transportation, the data's skewed already anyway. My comments.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, please.
So I have a couple of comments. First of all, it's worth noting Basalt is on their 4th year of this program, about to embark on their 5th year. They had to go to RAFTA and plead for a second bite at the apple because they had no plan for continuing. So Glenwood Springs is way ahead of the curve compared to our peers. Carbondale's in a similar boat. They had, I think, a year ahead of Basalt. So they're going to be in the same spot next year trying to figure out how to pay for this. So this is not a critique of how we're operating this program. I think that we're actually being really responsible with the opportunity that this first last mile grant has provided us. One of our duties, I think, is to provide an alternative if we want to have a relief from the impacts of single occupant vehicles and the traffic and the congestion, is have some reliable resource. And so I'm very grateful that we are embarking on this and we have this opportunity with the RAFTA grant. So I think that's like, I just wanted to get right out in front and say that. Do we know how much of the ride Glenwood just directly mimics the RAFTA trunk line with like the same shared, like are there different bus stops or is it just mimic the exact trunk line of RAFTA?
Yeah, so the fixed route, the Ride Glenwood fixed route, goes across Grand Avenue Bridge, goes down Highway 6 and 24 down to West Glenwood. That stretch is the only stretch that is unique to Ride Glenwood.
Okay.
You know, so for example, there are 4 bus routes that stop at the community center of the Meadows. So that's really one of our big things with RAFTA is, can't you guys shift the bus over there? And one of the big reasons it's set up the way it is and has been revisited many, many, many years is the RAFTA buses could never navigate the original Grand Avenue Bridge.
Got it.
So now that we actually have a better bridge, right, that obviously can accommodate buses, we're going to have that conversation of why can't a RAFTA bus go down 6 and 24, again, then freeing up, you know, our kind of the big picture to Councilor Schachter's point is, hey, look, if we can figure out a way of relieving X% of Ride Glenwood, that money is available for something else. Now, I'm not sure if that's on demand or whatever else, but again, that's the hope of when we start to get into this with RAFTA.
So that's how I look at this. Like, I am a huge fan of RAFTA. I lobbied to be the representative for the RAFTA board for Glenwood Springs because I really want to participate in these conversations. But that is one of my main, I guess, personal frustrations as a resident of Glenwood Springs. And I know that 0.2% of my sales tax is going to a bus that just serves, we are paying our contractor to like do part of their job in essence. And so I would like to redirect that fund into really serving our community and partner with RAFTA in serving things, you know, I guess making that more efficient. And so as we move forward and look at these like hotspots in the zones, I would like that to be part of that kind of comprehensive vision as well. So that would be, I guess, my request for if we do continue this and go back to look at how maybe a de-escalation or not de-escalation, but I don't, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, like a process for starting to like dial back from that and get away from just like mimicking. I know that a lot of people do rely on the Ride Glenwood to get to 27th Street where they can get on one of the bigger, you know, get to one of the hubs, but they're getting that for free. And then we're asking other people to pay for basically the same service, but because they're in South Glenwood, they can't get there through Ride Glenwood. And so those are all the things that I was hoping would be kind of addressed and solved by, you know, starting to use this. And then also I think that it's worth noting that part of RAFTA's plan for this whole process for the first last mile is to continue the funding past the 3 years that does incentivize the trips to the hubs. So those main transit hubs. So it'd be like the West Glenwood Transit Hub, 27th Street, the main hub in Carbondale for Carbondale, things like that. So they already do have like, there was a subcommittee that kind of came up with that plan. So that process is already in there. So we really just need to worry about how we're going to deal with it in Glenwood. and what we want to do with that. So I just don't think that the rest of council was aware of that.
Thank you. Counselor Smith.
Thank you. One question that's a little arithmetic and probably embarrassing. Want to be sure I'm doing my arithmetic right. The background materials say that the current fare revenue is about $77,500 at the $1 rate. And that covers about 1 month worth of total operating expenses. Am I correct that the total cost of this program is 12 times 77.5?
Yeah, that sounds right. Like I said, the whole program for the year is about $1 million.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you also to Councilor Schachter and for raising the question about a big picture transportation concept or context. Thank you for reminding what we saw on our calendar of future potential meeting topics, that you're planning a comprehensive transportation workshop or work session with the City Council. Please include the Transportation Commission in preparation for that workshop and perhaps even bring them along. I think that's going to really help inform the discussion because we've got a really smart cadre of experts and clear thinkers on that group. So those minds will be useful for that work session. Thank you.
Councilor Schachter.
Thank you again. Couple things. I hope as we go through with this down the road, Ryan, that perhaps we assume for the time being that unlike carbonyl basalt, that we're planning for no subsidy from RAFTA at some point for our on-demand. RAFTA has its own needs up and down the valley, and that's critical. And if they choose to subsidize, wonderful. If they choose to subsidize first and last mile, like our 2 hubs, I think that's great. But I would not keep assuming anything more than our 1.9 million. How does that meet Glenwood's internal needs? And that's what I think what we're looking for. How can we merge on demand, if we can afford it, and ride Glenwood to meet our needs in town that aren't being met? I think Ray brought up a great point that I thought of. One of our goals isn't just to get people to go on RAFTA. One of our goals, and this I think relates to price elasticity, one of our goals is to get people not to use their cars internally in Glenwood. So where is that? And I agree, our pricing's too low. Where is that price point high enough that says, no, it's just as easy or cheaper for me to use my car than to hop on demand or ride? I don't think we know that. And with the low prices, we may not know that. So there's the elasticity I think I'd be looking for. What gets people to choose transit versus their car, and how high can we go? I believe I remember at some point, and I use RAFTA now because it doesn't cost me anything because I'm old, but there was a point, and I think RAFTA lowered its valley prices fairly significantly, where it was more expensive for somebody to ride RAFTA, although time has value, but it was more expensive for somebody from Carbondale or Glenwood going up to work in Aspen than to get in their car, and gas prices were lower. So as we look at elasticity, I think we are priced too low. Let's see if we can figure out where people stop riding and get in their car instead, or vice versa. And I guess that's all I have right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilor Weimer.
So I'm kind of frustrated with the program as well. You know, $500,000 a year. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, we've not learned anything from this program, right? We've learned where people get on and where people get off. And we've learned that people really enjoy a $1 taxi ride. And that's quite literally all we've learned. And you know, we go to the heat map and we look at the heat map and we get excited about the heat map, but the #1 heat map is City Market, and there's already a bus stop there. So I don't know what, other than I like taking a $1 taxi ride to the supermarket and back, again, we've not learned anything. And you know, Steve threw out, you know, a nice MBA word, elasticity. And so now we've been using elasticity a couple of times up here. I don't know that I care about elasticity, right? Because if we get to the point where we decide on demand is an ongoing operational concern, our goal is going to be break even. It has to at least be break even. So whatever our operational costs are, that's what it's going to cost. And so I don't know that I today at this moment care about $1 versus $3. What I think, I mean, I'm at the point where I'm questioning, do we even fund this for another year? And I'm very quite on the fence about this, because 12 months from now, it's going to be another $500,000, and we're going to see the exact same heat map as we see today. It's just with a $3 or whatever dollar fare. We're not going to learn certainly $500,000 worth of actionable insight. What I'd like to see, Ryan, and from your team, I would like to see you come back with your recommendations for how we adjust Ride Glenwood today. We've been at this for a year. Give us some recommendations. Let's play with that. Let's set up now a sandbox for Ride Glenwood, right? We know there's a lot of duplication in routes. Let's dedupe, right? And let's take what very little we've learned, try to action it, adjust Ride Glenwood, start understanding customer and consumer response to changes of routes, so that we can at least know that we're progressing in a direction, because right now we're not progressing in any direction. And I certainly have zero interest in funding 12 more months of incredibly subsidized rides. I don't see any value in that. And the value is really about actioning what we've learned. Great, for instance, let's get some service down to South Glenwood. That's something that we could action quite quickly by just modifying bus routes. And let's modify bus routes and perhaps continue on demand for another year. See how your uptake changes, right? Because now we're putting bus routes and stops where we're seeing a lot of pickups and drop-offs. Is that changing the heat map, right? And if it doesn't, then we know certainly it's just about a $1 ride, right? But if it is changing the heat map, we know we're meeting some of this unmet demand. We are literally taking miles off the road, because to Aaron's great point, I'm not sure that we're even doing that, right? There's times where that van's got 2 or 3 people in it. How many of them are driving age, right? How many of them don't have a car? We don't have any customer insight that gives us any sort of understanding of what generated that ride to begin with, right? And so that's what I would like to see, some movement in that direction. Let's adjust in the next month. Let's adjust Ride Glenwood, or however quickly everybody can sort of react to that. Let's adjust Ride Glenwood. Let's start meeting some of that unmet demand. Let's continue this on-demand shuttle service for another year. See what's changed, and at the very least, and let's start getting some consumer insight. There's got to be some sort of survey when you use this. Why did you ride with us today, right? Do you not have a XYZ available to you otherwise? Like just some level of basic insight as to what generated that ride today, so that we can understand that and react to it. So that I think the 7 of us up here feel like we are making much more informed decisions and moving this in a direction versus just another year of kind of the same stuff. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other comments? Council Townsley.
I think I would totally agree with that. That we're not gonna, if we just keep doing the same thing we've done this year, for next year and the year after that, we're spending 500,000. So we've spent $1 million and we've got the same information. So I think that's really the way to go would be to, if anything, if what we're gonna have long-term is maybe a ride first mile, last mile for free from RAFTA, then that's a great place to go with that. But unless we're thinking that we want this to be a permanent service, which I think is probably going to be underwater financially, why not try to adjust the maps and see what we get? Maybe even throw in a $5 fare if we are going to keep it going at all, just to see, some information about elasticity versus, and I think Ray's point off earlier too, once we get everybody used to having a free fare, basically a free fare around town, it's the longer we let that ride, the harder it's going to be for people to adjust to going, oh, we've taken that away from you now. So I think what Mitchell just said is, let's adjust, let's take what we've learned, adjust something, and quit paying for the same information 3 times. So I would agree with that.
Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Yeah, so I agree with what both of y'all said. I just feel like we are still missing pieces of the puzzle. And so I also don't think that Ride Glenwood can be amended as quickly as in a month. I think that we don't have bus stops. We have a contractor that does that. There's a certain size bus. So I think that we do have to give it another year, whether we like it or not, just to get where we need to be. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I correct?
I think those are all correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think increasing the fare to something in that $3 when it was first raised last meeting, I thought that was probably appropriate. That gets us to a place where we are subsidizing it. Even if we are if the kids are not driving age, but mom doesn't have to run home to pick them up and then run back to drop them off and then go back to the office, we're still taking a trip off the road. So I don't disagree. I think that you're correct because, the hotspot city market, but we don't know where they're originating. So I think we're still missing some of the critical points to make that informed decision. But I appreciate that we are all demanding that to make a responsible choice. And so that's where I'm at with it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Come on, yeah, we've been doing it this long. Can I put the?
I haven't said a word.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I go before you?
No, you go and then I'll wrap.
There's Lee, because he's watching this and he's just like, oh my God, let me talk.
Go.
But he doesn't want to talk. The 2 things he wanted to bring up, there's actually 3, is we're raising the rates to help balance out some of that lack of funding this year. Because we are eating into probably reserves slightly to accommodate for this program, because RAFTA costs so much, the bus tax only brings in so much. Revenue versus cost don't balance out really well. So he's saying $3 will help us continue this program and not even reserves as much as they were. Second thing is RAFTA's upcoming services planning effort, which you probably know about, is happening in August, which is when we get to have all of these, what are we changing on our system? What would we like to change? How does it function with what you would like to do in the future kind of thing? It's happening in August. So the information that we have right now, yes, there's hot spots, but the key information is really, where did they come from? If there's 200,000 people that came out of South Glenwood and went to City Market, we should get a bus down there. The problem is which bus? The big buses won't go around town into some of these places we want. So now we're all of a sudden buying 30-foot buses instead of 45-foot buses, and we're going to retire the ones we have. So you kind of have to get this right to make recommendations, because we're now going to say, well, we're going to sell $1 million bus for $100,000, and we're going to buy $1 million bus because it has to go on this route. So we have to be right about it. So 1 more year's worth of data would be super substantial for that to make sure we have it. And how often does the bus want to go down there? Okay, Ride Glenwood's picking up every 30 minutes in South Glenwood. All right, let's send a bus down there every 30 minutes or every 60 minutes. What is the anticipation that we would like? He was suggesting the $3 basically just to kind of cover a little bit more of our overages to help us balance it out. And it probably won't hit that elasticity factor where it's so much that people won't use it, but it's enough to help us recoup some of the revenue that we're losing and probably eating into cash. So he just wanted to bring up a couple of those points that I think are pertinent to the conversation. August is the time frame that we need to take this information and start having conversations with the crowd.
Okay.
And I think as we come back for that overall picture too, right? I think this will start to play into kind of put those pieces.
Councilor Smith, one more time.
Thank you yet again. Because each time somebody says something smart, it makes me a little smarter and that makes me have more questions. Thank you, Matt, and by relay Lee for those insights. One of the things that Lee and Matt said was that sounds like we need more information about where people are coming from, or at least where people are coming from vis-a-vis the heat map. So you make connections between who's going from where to City Market, who's going from South Glenwood to where, which I think is a lot of what Councilor Weimer was talking about and Councilor Zelensky was chiming in. If we need another year, maybe we do indeed need another year of this process, but can the data analysis in that year give us more information like that? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if I see no other comments, I'm not gonna be long, but everything I heard makes sense. We actually had some really great points on the dais tonight about all this. I tend to agree with Councilor Weimer and Councilor Schachter, and to a certain extent with you about the equity. From experience, zones work when there's another mode of transportation. If there's only one mode of transportation, it doesn't, because it's not equitable. And all of a sudden, zone 3 pays more than they should. But if you have another bus going through, well, again, from experience, where I'm from, there's 11 zones, but they're all crisscrossing. Everything touches. And yeah, you want to go further? Sure, you pay more, but you have multiple ways to get there. There's only one way. So I'm a huge fan of zones, but it doesn't quite work with what we currently got. So that brings me to the point that we've had transportation workshops before, and it's been brought up before that we really need to start thinking about a master plan. We need to start thinking about how do we, and the master plan almost is actually very, very easy to compile. We have $1.9 million, work backwards. That's all the money we got. And another statement I'm going to make is no public transportation system makes money. You have to understand that. There's not one public transportation system out there, large city, small city, rural, that pays for itself. It's not possible. It's just not how these systems work. They're so expensive to run with very little revenue. Even though there's millions of people riding it, it just doesn't make sense. But besides the point, we got to come up with a master plan. We got to come up with less duplicated routes. We got to tell RAFTA, we'd love it if you did this. We'll take care of the rest. That includes the fixed route. We got to figure out the fixed route. And yes, to Matt's point, if some of those buses we have do not go where we think they should go, then we need to adjust. And whether there's grants for new buses, whether there's whatever, we can buy new bus from whatever. The other thing and that was just something I picked up. We have a contractor running our buses. Have we ever ran the numbers of actually doing it ourselves? Don't tell me we can't get drivers. We can't do this. I just want to know, what would the difference be if those are actually City of Glenwood Springs transportation employees compared to the contractor? Contractors are great because you can just plop it in their lap, but they're very expensive compared to in-house.
The contractor for Ride Glenwood is RAFTA.
Okay, so RAFTA charges us a certain amount to do that.
They do.
Again, I still would like to see an alternative because how many buses do we, it doesn't matter. We're going into details. This is for the workshop. So I would like to see a bigger plan. We have 1 year of data collected. Yes, maybe we need a second year with a higher price. We do need a higher price. To Ray's point, we will not get accurate information until we get to that pain threshold of, oh my God, $7. I think I'll walk a half a mile and then take the other zone that is cheaper. And that's where zone comes in. I, as a kid, would walk a zone to pay less to get on the light rail. That's an option people have. So that exists when you have zones. So anyway, we need a larger master plan of RAFTA. We're counting on you for this, whether it's down the Grand Avenue Bridge, 82, Highway 6, whatever. We're doing the rest. And then the on-demand fits in where the rest doesn't supply. but we need to come up with that. And it sounds like we come up with it by August because you're going to talk to RAFTA. That seems impossible.
So yeah, we've been working on this for a while. And again, trying to adjust, as we've discussed earlier, the fixed route to kind of and change it up, right? Change those
Right.
4 bus stops, bus lines. So it's something that's in the works. And again, I think we'll come back at a work session. Again, I agree with you, right? We have the money from the bus tax that we have to fund everything in the public transportation realm.
But we're going to do our best to do that, right? I mean, if we'll have to see when we get there, is it worth figuring out where the rest could come from? If we need more, if it makes sense to supply better service to more corners of Glenwood Springs. I just want to know, how many fixed buses do we have? How many right Glenwoods do we have?
I think about 4 or 5. I think we have
Okay, so
4 or 5 buses.
Okay,
Yeah, I think we have
Alright.
5.
so limited, but we have them.
They carry about 260,000 a year.
Right. Okay. Anyway, back to sum it all up. I hope you guys have enough direction from here where we think you should go with this. But I also think when this comes back, we should be ready to increase the price with more information from them. I think to Lee's point, yes, let's offset some of that cost, and $3, even just $3 will make a difference. So with that, we have a motion to continue and a second. So with that, I will call the question.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, guys. Looking
you.
forward to the next round and a work session, hopefully.
Taking notes, the same.
It'd be nice to get the information that we were told was in this package beginning.
Sorry, that was that.
But let's do the work session before we do so we all kind of know what we're doing, right? Okay, awesome. Moving on, item 11. Ordinance 2615, an ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, amending section 100-010-060 and 100-010-020 of the municipal code regarding collection and management of food waste and organics for the city of Glenwood Springs. Liz, good evening.
Thank you. My name is Liz Morrow. I'm your landfill manager, and I don't have a presentation for you today, but I'll just do a quick summary of what the ordinance is that's in front of you, and then we can discuss. So this is an organic waste diversion requirement ordinance, otherwise known as a composting ordinance. Organic waste diversion is just more of the technical term for requiring composting. So this ordinance would require composting in phases, basically starting with the largest generators and moving down the line. This is specifically for commercial food waste generators. So under this ordinance, diversion requirements would begin for restaurants next summer. The summer after that, we would add in retail stores that sell food. The summer after that, we would add in multifamily housing. And sort of the origin of where this is coming from is that we know that over 1/3 of what's being put in the trash in our community right now and landfilled is organic waste that could be composted. And it would be beneficial to the city to divert that into a composting program to turn it into a soil amendment that could benefit our community and not use expensive landfill space. So that's really the gist of it. We can dive into phase 2 and 3.
She said
I
that.
covered that.
Yeah.
She did.
I'm still thinking about buses.
You're still thinking about buses. That's right. All right. Well, thanks, Liz.
Yes.
Thanks for being here. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, let's start with questions.
Thanks. I appreciated all the information in the packet. When I was reading through it, one of the things that struck me was the increase from 2024 over 2018, the 2 sample data sets. Is that purely just increased population, or is there some other like anecdotal reason for why there was such an increase in organic matter over the course of those 6 years?
I mean, to be honest, there's so many variables in that. I really couldn't say, especially since that waste is regional, not even just specific to Glenwood.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Oops, that's me. Counselor Schachter, please.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you very much. Remind me, do we know a couple things? One, what is the cost to them? Do we have an idea of what the cost would be, for example, in phase one to a restaurant?
Sure, I can give some examples. So we know that, I mean, it would completely depend on how much organic waste they are producing. It could run anywhere from $70 a month to $500 a month. That's going from if the size of the container to the frequency of the pickup. For example, we have a 2-yard dumpster that we collect compost in at the recycle center that's picked up twice a week, and we pay $430 a month for that. That is a very large amount. No restaurant would be producing that much on their own.
And is that dumpster full every 2 weeks?
It is,
Oh.
yes.
So at this point, is it reasonably fair to assume that at that range, Liz, that range would also theoretically be proportionate to their revenue and their business, theoretically?
Yes,
Okay.
theoretically, the busier they are, the more waste they might be producing.
And
Yeah.
being somewhat simplistic, am I correct that the benefits to us, and I personally consider our landfill one of our most valuable city assets, if not the most valuable. In the long run, there's potential methane reduction in the long run,
Yes,
which
there is.
we're going to pay a price for one way or another if we don't reduce it. Landfill area is precious. We'll have that. And we have a bio benefit as well as a revenue benefit from creating compost. Are those three, is that true?
Yes,
Okay.
I would say those are correct. We benefit in many ways from something like this happening, and the community as a whole benefits from
Am I
having this
missing any
compost
major
available.
benefits?
Yes. So I would say one, sorry, one large benefit actually is that everyone, including our customers of our residential pay-as-you-throw program, the prices they're paying for trash, things like this will in the long run help keep those prices down.
Okay.
Because the faster we fill up the landfill, the more expensive it is to keep expanding it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Counselor Small, please.
So do we have a number on the 2018 total waste and 2024 total waste? I'm trying to get the relationship to.
We do. Sorry, I don't have those right in front of me. But I think from 2024, it was about 19,000 tons. 2018, I'd have to go back and look at the records to find.
And we made 2,349 tons of compost in the last 5 years. Is that right?
I believe that was in 2025. So that was in 1 year, and that's the amount we sold, I believe, in that 1 year. We sell about 2,000 to 3,000 tons a year.
So if we increase the amount of diversion, the compost manufacturing will increase proportionately?
Yes, it will.
And there's a market to sell all of that compost?
Yes.
Then the other question I have relates to regional versus local. This resolution for whatever good or bad it is to the people upon whom it is imposed are always going to be local. How much of our trash is regional?
So because private haulers serve all of the commercial in our area, we don't have exact numbers. But we believe that with residential and commercial together, about 20% of what's going in the landfill is from Glenwood Springs itself, and the rest is from outside of Glenwood Springs.
Ooh.
Yes. Because we get trash all the way from Basalt, Carbondale, Redstone, Yeah. Newcastle.
So at the very best, if everybody loved this and we made money off of all of the diverted compost, all the diverted waste turned into compost, we would still have 80% of our trash that we have no control over?
Well, I wouldn't say we have no control over it, but we don't have the same type of control, right? Because we can't pass an ordinance to control people outside. city
Yeah,
limits.
that's what surprised me is that
Yeah.
it's only 20% of our trash in the Glenwood landfill is coming from Glenwood. And if I understand right, we really don't know how this ordinance would work because most of what we're dealing with first is the downtown restaurant waste. And we don't know where we would put those dumpsters, right? Is that what I understood? Because they don't fit in the alleys?
I mean, I think we know it would be kind of challenging, but I don't think it's insurmountable.
You think us passing a resolution is going to force the answer?
I mean, I'm saying I think it's a challenge, but one that we can do. I guess what I'm saying is I think we can do it. Yeah.
Depending on who's paying the bill, right?
Well, the people who are composting are paying the bill.
You know, so the resolution is gonna force those people to pay the bill, whatever the solution ends up being. We don't know what the solution is yet, but we should pass the resolution first. That doesn't make sense to me.
So a lot of times you won't actually work out a solution unless you force people to actually have a conversation with you. So at this point, basically, it'll be like blocks 44 and 45. We said, hey, all of you, we're going to put compactors in, you will use them. And we created a space for that. We actually bought the compactors for them, or we do the whole entire thing for them. In this particular case, we will force the conversation and we will figure out solutions to it. We may have to come back to you and say, I'm sorry, in these 2 blocks, there will be 1 4-yard trash or compost container that will sit within the right of way, but it's in a controlled environment. Will be outside of the code. We'll have to ask you for permission to do that kind of thing. So until we have something to actually say, you have to do this, a lot of these people, as Liz reached out already to say, hey, composting is basically free through this grant program, but 5 of them responded to you out of the entire city. You can't make them actually respond to you until you have something to talk about. So if we come back to you and say, hey, the ordinance needs to be pushed a month or 2 or whatever it is, I doubt it. That's why we added 6 months onto it. It gives us basically a year from this time frame to start conversations with people and figure out where these things will go. And then we can figure out, do you need a 96? Does it need to be once a week? Do you need a 2-yard, or does it need twice a week? What is your actual reality of need? And there are companies out there that can pick up on a daily basis. There are companies that could pick up on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. Maybe it's a smaller container if it's daily. Maybe it's a larger container because we have a lot of space to put it. And it's only being picked up once a week. But we need some help from you to make the conversations occur, which is why we're asking for it before that, because we've tried this conversation without we'll call it the light stick, and it didn't go anywhere.
No.
There will be some compromise here and there, and we'll have to bring that information back to you, and we'll have to talk about it.
Okay. You good? Yeah, you turned it off. Okay, Councilor Tansley, let's move on.
Quick question, multifamily, how are you gonna, let's, for lack of a better word, force that issue, and how are they gonna deal with that at a huge multifamily apartment complex?
You want to go logistics?
Sure. Yeah, so they would deal with it exactly the same way that they deal with recycling. So however they do their trash and recycling, most places it will be a shared dumpster situation down in their utility area managed by their building manager. So we're not going to micromanage that. We're just going to communicate with their building manager and make sure that they can show us that they're doing it and adding the service. And their building manager is responsible for managing that service within their building.
I mean, I hate to be skeptical, but I don't know. I would wonder if a bunch of people that are not transient, but are not you know, putting down lifelong roots in an apartment building are gonna care about doing anything other than taking their trash to the dumpster.
And this is actually part of the challenge that we have with the recycling ordinance that we put in last year. Last year? Can't even remember anymore, years anymore. 2 years ago, where multifamily is required to recycle. So they have to have equivalents as the pay as you throw. So if they have a 4-yard dumpster, they need to have a 2-yard dumpster kind of thing. One is enforcement. Sandy doesn't have time to run around and do this, but you just gave Lynn the ability to have these conversations. 2, we also got a grant from the state of Colorado for trash enclosures to help people say that multifamily residence doesn't have a large enough trash enclosure associated with what we're requiring them, because now it's in theory trash, recycling, and compost. They shouldn't take up much more space if you think about it, because it's still the same volume. They're just different containers they now have to deal with, and they have to size them appropriately. And if the enclosure needs to be enlarged, I believe we were up to $2,000 or $2,500 we could give them through this state program to enlarge that, bear proof it a little bit more, or wildlife improve it a little bit more, and still have them be able to utilize that area. So we're trying to balance it out where we've got money for them to help them solve the problem. They just have to help themselves by actually doing it.
I guess my lack of confidence is in human behavior of the people that actually live there that would have to separate their trash out and do something different.
It's the same conversation we had about bears. It's the human behavior we have to start modifying to get the result that we would like.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with you, Counselor Townsley. It may be a long road and there may be a lot of attempts at education and re-education. And, but it's worth trying, I think.
Start somewhere. Okay, thank you, Councilor Schachter.
Thanks, Liz. Ray brought up a point, maybe you can clarify, it's not exactly related to this, but the 20%, 80%. Am I correct? We don't have differential pricing because we don't always know the source of the waste? Is that from the different carriers? Or do we have differential pricing for out of town, in town?
We have differential pricing for in-county, out of county.
County.
In city, out of city for commercial, honestly, would be very difficult to do because the trash trucks are crossing city lines and picking up things from all over the place.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Smith.
Thank you for this very thorough background material. It was enlightening. Continuing a little further, the conversations you've had with Councilor Schmall and Councilor Schachter, this proposal focuses initially in the first phase on restaurants in Glenwood Springs and having them change their operations on their site. Not so long ago, you implemented requirements basically prohibiting yard waste coming in at the scale. So your enforcement point is at the scale. Is there a parallel opportunity here to somehow head off organics going into the face from whatever town, whatever truck at the scale instead of in the downtown alley?
Excellent question, Steve. So I'm going to say no. And the reason why they're so different is that most of the yard waste we see coming in is in trailers from landscapers, or it's in roll-offs. So it's a lot easier for us to target that load and target where it's coming from.
You can see it.
And separate it or exclude it. Whereas the food waste that's coming from everywhere is completely mixed in to every trash load. So if we were to do that, we would essentially just have to reject every trash load.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. And on the mechanics for, again, starting with the first phase restaurants, basically in Glenwood Springs, as you mentioned, that is currently done by a variety of private haulers. That's not part of the city's centralized single hauler program. Do those trash containers from various sources in the restaurant rows have wildlife protection? Are they bear-proof dumpsters? And is there, and do they need to, all the more need to be bear proof if there's going to be organics concentrated and more smelly, more appealing? Do we have bear requirements downtown now?
Do we?
No, it's based on offenses.
Okay.
If you get called in twice, you have to have a bear, you have to change to a bear-approved container within a 12-month period, and there's another caveat in there, I can't remember now.
Okay, so the fact that organics might be more smelly and more appealing to the bear
Sure.
might just trigger that same system more often.
Well, I would say so to start off with, just realize that all the organics that would be in their compost bins are already in their trash bins. So they're already out there. We're not increasing. And so far, all of the haulers that operate in our area that are doing composting, the commercial bins they provide are all 100% metal with metal lids that are actually much more wildlife resistant than the trash bins that are offered. So it would be probably more secure.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Council Townsley.
Just kind of thinking about this, as you said, I didn't realize that we were talking 80-20. And then out of that 20 that's coming out of Glenwood, how much of that is coming from restaurants? So it seems like we're kind of coming down on a pretty small group here. But on the other hand, I also like all the benefits that you laid out for us doing this. Is there any way to reverse it a little bit instead of coming down on top of somebody to go, okay, we up the price on trash or whatever, and I don't know the mechanics of this, but if there's an incentive to a business owner that's a restaurant owner, if you separate your organics out, we'll haul that away for free, or we'll haul that away from half price, where the pricing is still the same, but one's an incentive versus the other is you have to do this, we're going to make you do this by mandate.
That would be great. If you guys have funds for that, let's do it.
I mean,
Yeah.
you would still charge the person the same, but I mean, you're taking that cost and splitting it up and saying, okay, restaurants or commercial businesses, food, anybody that's a food provider, we're going to charge a little bit more, but we can get right back to the same place by separating organics out. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and that's maybe something that we would come back to with you on. Hauler's gonna have to buy cans, maybe we have to help with that. Hauler's gonna charge so much, maybe they can't afford that and we have to supplement somehow. I mean, there are things that we're going to find out that we couldn't when we tried this before, that we will now find out with the, I'm gonna call it the pool noodle approach, not a stick. Let's go out there and have real conversations with them and see what we can come up with that is realistic to make this function. You love that.
Loved it. I love the pool noodle.
So yes, we're gonna find out a lot with, if you pass this ordinance, we're gonna find out a lot of more information from these people. Where can they go? I don't have an enclosure. We have money to help you with that. How much does this cost? Compost is way less expensive than municipal solid waste is. Okay, so where's the savings? Where's the balance? We're gonna have to figure that all out. Aspen's done it, Pickens County's done it. It's kind of different in both places. So we're gonna be a new place to try to figure this out. It's kind of like pay as you throw.
Yep.
It's a good idea. You don't exactly know what the downfalls are until you hit it running basically and figure out where the downfalls are for our community in particular. And I apologize for the calculation there. I used 100% of the 36%. We started using Jacob the other day, and how many people actually use the recycling center? Where do they come from? And Liz was like, well, let's do that at the landfill. And the number was very surprising actually at the 80-20. So we would be collecting less tonnage that was in the staff report. It'd probably be 1,400-1,500 tons a year, which is why it's not such a large number. We can still handle it and sell it.
Okay, thank
But
you.
if we can convince the downstream communities to do the same thing.
Right. Councilor Small, please.
Is there any reason that we can't require any of the trash trucks coming into our landfill to have had a tracker on them so we know where they've been and where they've collected?
Well, and they already have that. How we would utilize the information would be interesting conversation. All the trash trucks have 7 cameras and trackers on.
I ask that because it seems like whether you call it a noodle or whether you call it a stick, we're using one of those devices to solve a small percentage of our problem, when we could be attacking the whole problem just with technology that exists, I suspect. and having a much greater positive impact altogether on our landfill and our revenue generation from compost.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Smith?
I'm actually,
Can I answer this
Oh, yeah.
question? So we are gonna meet with the new bill from Mountain Waste, talks about some of the bear things. We had conversations. I want to meet him. That's a good question to bring up is how do you track the trucks? I know they have GPS locators on them because they want to know exactly what the trucks are doing and how fast they're doing it. Maybe we can break into some of that information and get some deciphers so we can have conversations about the trucks on Tuesdays and Wednesdays are really the problem trucks because they go to Newcastle and collect 90% of their stuff and then they come to the landfill. You know, maybe we can start solving some of these questions that you have on where are they going and which days are problematic, maybe more than others, and see if we can come up with some alternative solutions. I'm going to call them.
Love it. Councilor Smith?
I'm actually ready to offer a motion whenever it's appropriate.
Okay, we can do that in a second. Quick question. So I think you already touched on that, but the numbers that you actually submitted are not based on the 20%. They're based on the 100%, 20% from Glenwood.
So what I did is I took the 19,000 and checked it by 36.8, whatever was in the number, and said 100% is coming from Glenwood. That was inaccurate. I apologize. Now we know more about the percentage. So it's really 20% of that.
Of that, so the number is off. Okay,
50.
right. And the other question is more generally, but have you ever heard of a landfill that refuses commingle trash with compost and says you have to bring it in, separate it? Because we can do what we do downtown, but can we basically say we will not take any more loads with fresh food mixed into your trash coming from commercial? Have you ever heard of anybody doing that, trying that?
No.
Is that impossible? Does it sound
I
impossible?
would say, so it's not impossible. It's not impossible. I mean, organics bans, can exist in other countries. They exist. I
wouldn't ban it. I
Now-
would just want it in a different pile.
Well, essentially, the only way you can do that is to ban it from landfill disposal, which in our case, we're in a little bit of a unique situation because what that would mean for us is if we did that, because there's another landfill 30 miles down the road, what that would essentially mean is we are telling those trucks to go dump at that other landfill. And they would.
Nobody will
would-
take that on and say, hey,
No.
like Matt said, we're starting to teach people how we should do this. Nobody would take that
I mean,
on,
the way
actually.
to start is to try to get these composting services to be available first, and then try to see how much uptake we can get. But if we just started with a ban, the trucks would just go to rifle.
We'll just go to rifle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, and this is a realization, the 80-20 is kind of eye-opening.
But thanks to
Yeah.
Jacob, we can actually tell you
Right.
where they're coming from and how often and those kinds of things and roughly what the split is. So if we wanted to, we could go to Newcastle and say, you're 40% of the trash coming in. Maybe let's have a conversation about, hey, can you guys modify how you do things also?
Somewhere down the road.
Franchise
Right.
and Mountain Waste and Recycling.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, there's options, I guess. Okay, great. With that, back to Councilor Smith. There you go. And I'm entertaining a motion in, what is it? Item 11, ordinance 2026-15.
Acknowledging that this is a big problem and a big need in terms of landfill operation, and that this step won't solve it all. And it therefore is important to start with a first step. I enthusiastically move approval of ordinance number 2026-15. Do I need to read the entire
Yeah,
title?
please.
An ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, amending sections 100.010.060 and 100.010.020 of the municipal code regarding collection and management of food waste and organics for the South Canyon landfill.
All right,
Mr. Mayor,
thank you.
can we take that second?
Yeah.
It's an empty house tonight. You do need to open the public comment.
There are people online.
You're absolutely correct. And it is an ordinance. Thank you for the reminder.
Well, it's good, Matt. I'd already you beat me down.
I'm already like, let's go. Anybody from the public like to comment on this before we do move into a second and move to the question? I see none, nobody online. Thank you very much. Close the public portion, bring it back. We have a motion to approve. I'm looking for a second. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
I'll second.
And a second. Any discussion? See none, I'll call the question.
Counselor Townsley, not voted.
Oh, it's off already. Well, let's redo the vote. I will recall for the question. And we're there.
Counselor Townsley, yes. Counselor Zelinski, yes. Mayor Dame, yes. Counselor Weimer, yes. Counselor Schmall, no. Counselor Smith, yes. Counselor Schachter, yes. The motion passes 6-1.
Thank you, Liz. Excellent. Thank you. Moving on. Item 12, ordinance 2026, an ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, amending section 120.030.150 of the Glenwood Springs Municipal Code to include prohibiting solicitation at certain intersections in the city. Carl.
Thank you. This is going to be far less interesting, hopefully. As part of our last work session, talking about how to address some safety concerns and issues around our intersections with solicitation that's going on. That could be anything from asking for money to spinning a sign. Working with the police department, we identified a number of intersections that we thought would be appropriate to ban solicitation at because of the volume of traffic, the speeds of traffic, and kind of their locations. So what you have in front of you is an amendment to the code to ban solicitation within 100 feet of essentially working from the west side of town, the roundabouts, West Walshin and Midland Avenue, super busy intersection there, and also higher speeds. And then farther out of town at coming in basically the Walmart light, which is one of those that we already, it's a traffic cam location as well. Super high speeds there. People are looking around, lots of accidents there. So we're focusing on those intersections where we believe that there are identified safety concerns to implement this at this time. With that, happy to answer any questions.
When you said Midland intersections, does that mean East Meadow, West Meadow?
Just means West Meadows, where you have
where it goes into the main shopping
the main
center.
shopping center, because you have people going by at 35.
Yeah.
You have left turns being made, right turns.
The light.
The light.
Okay.
Yeah, just it's a complicated intersection compared to the other ones.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, please.
Is this ordinance limited to just those three specific?
It is
locations?
limited to just, and I'm sorry, and the roundabouts over here coming off the Grand Avenue. So there again, places where roundabouts, bad place to be because cars are always moving. You don't want somebody to stop to read a sign, hand out money, interact with somebody at those locations. So it's just those 4 locations right now.
And then does this allow, so if there was any other future problematic intersections identified, we would have to revise the ordinance at that
We'd
time?
have to revise the ordinance at that time.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, at one point we had blanketed the city with this and we got some pushback, I think probably appropriately so, that it was maybe overstepping a little bit with the, kind of First Amendment rights. But I think with these targeted in these locations and really focusing on the safety, both for the person who is there soliciting as well as for the drivers in the cars and other drivers, I think these are appropriate at this time.
So just in the thought of this, there's a couple of those spots. Our roundabouts often incorporate a crosswalk right there too. Have we identified any concerns? Like, has there been solicitation near those crosswalks, or is it just kind of isolated?
Well, what this does is it's 100 feet from those intersections, so it's going to take up that crosswalk as well as prohibiting solicitation in those spots.
Sorry, I should rephrase that. I'm thinking of areas that weren't identified by this ordinance, but still have those crosswalks. And Has there been solicitation in those locations as well, or is it really just in these places that we've?
I
made
think
it?
what the police department looked at was what are the intersections that they view as most dangerous to
Got
have
it.
this activity occurring on.
Got it.
And so we focused on those for now. I think that, as things evolve, we'll take a look. And if there are other places that safety becomes an issue, we'll focus on those.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Schacht.
Well, related to Counselor Zelinski's question, legally, do we have to, in the future, identify every change, or can we authorize public safety to add to this list as needed?
The only way I can charge somebody is if you put it in the code, that I can charge somebody for it.
And they
So
can't put it in the code, we have to.
you have to put it in the code.
Thank you.
That's why.
Thank you.
Okay.
Counselor Small.
Yeah, I know. I'm just processing. Counselor Small.
I thought I remember reading language in the resolution that included islands that had paved surfaces generically.
Medians. Paved medians.
That was not, it was not in the additions we made. The only, there is, some related to bank or check cashing businesses because there's safety concerns about soliciting within, close to the doors, that kind of thing. And then for motor vehicles that are in traffic on a public street, and that is really more defined as they're moving, you're mid-block, you're trying to stop somebody to solicit them. That, I think those are the only ones. I'm not seeing. Number 6. Did I miss it? Number 6. Oh, on an unpaved median, that is less than 36 inches in width.
Unpaved 36 inch.
Yeah, unpaved and under 36 inches. So there again, it relates to the refuge. Is that a safe place for a person to be? What I'd use by way of example is, say at the corner of like where my offices are at 14th and Grand, like the high school kids come out there and they'll have signs out and, car washes, whatever. It's a relatively safe place to do that because there's a place to stand, there's a sidewalk, that kind of thing. I think this is really more addressing those areas where, you're out maybe on 6 and 24 where traffic is moving very fast. You don't have very much space to stand. And you're in the median.
Prohibiting 36 inch from back curb to back curb, unpaved. So a dirt median.
Hang on. So
any unpaved median or median of less than 36 inches. So it could be either paved of 36, less than 36,
okay.
right? So,
so the median in front of the West Glenwood gas station on the south side has a dividing median that's about 12 inches long and is paved in the middle. That would be illegal.
That would be illegal, but the wider ones that are in that same, like in that, where it's bigger than that, bigger than 36, it would be okay. There again, I think we're really focused on number 6 on the safety of the person who is there, whether they're spinning a sign or asking for money or advertising a car wash.
Thank you.
thank you. Counselor Smith.
Thank you. Do we know of other municipalities who have tried something like this and what the result was?
Well, the best example I have is us about 20 years ago, when we did it for every intersection, and it was pretty effective. And really the ones that it hit that really mattered. I don't know that the roundabouts were in yet out at the 114, and obviously the Grand Avenue Bridge looked a little bit different, but we were really targeting those safety issues, and the Walmart light has always been a problem. I think what's shifted over time is one, a more concentrated focus based on First Amendment law that changed between then and now on, limiting solicitation is considered a speech right. And so just focusing on the safety of those intersections. Other places have done similar things, targeted and focused on safety. So, it depends on what it's hard to say, is it working or not? Does that eliminate solicitation at those intersections? It does. Does it increase safety? Hopefully it does. That's the goal of what we're trying to do. I'm not sure what metric you're trying to get to.
Just, I think back to your first example, that Glenwood Springs did a version before legal definitions shifted. And it had an effect, you say?
Yeah, oh, it definitely had an effect. I
Had
mean,
an
because
effect
there
of
weren't people at
reducing-
intersections soliciting,
reducing-
including the cheerleaders at 14th or the football team or the basketball team or whatever,
Thanks.
which
Why-
I was really unpopular with the high school at that moment in time.
Thank you. Why is it necessary to put in a city ordinance a prohibition on private property? Why can't the private property owners do it themselves?
Well, they can call for a trespass. It's just frankly gives us another tool in our toolbox to make it illegal to do that so that you know, if that private, we have two charges that we could use. One is a trespass. The other one, this one has been in the code for probably 25 or 30 years. It just gives people the ability to call the police and say, look, somebody is soliciting on my property. I would like to have them moved along. It makes it clear that that is the case and that that's a prohibited activity. It also makes it a prohibited activity without the owner having to come out and say, you're trespassing as a basis for the charge that we have to do. It's the act itself that is a violation.
Thank you. Last question, what is the status of the police department DDA teaming up on encounters with business, panhandling or otherwise?
That meeting is scheduled for the 20th or the 21st.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Council Townsley, please.
Two questions. First one for you, Carl. You know, just in thinking about 36 inches and safety, I mean, truly safety of somebody standing on 36 inches, I would think 48 would be a much better number to have in there. Just is there a chance that we're going too small with that number?
Yeah, and there again, that section of the code has been in there for a long time. And so certainly I could sit down with Ryan Gordon and Lee and talk about what they think a safe refuge is for somebody to be standing on a median.
I mean, if somebody bends over and picks up a cell phone or something like that, cars.
I don't disagree with you. I think it probably went back at the time. This is so old, it probably went back that most city sidewalks were 36 inches. So that's probably.
I mean, I would be in favor of 36 inches. I'd be more in favor of 48 inches.
Yeah.
And then my second question is for the chief. What's our plan for enforcement of this at the point it goes into effect?
Robust. Because, and I would say proactive, because this is becoming a significant problem. You all, on all these roadways we're talking about, and again, to a different conversation we've been having, I think it's encouraging this behavior because Glenwood Springs has not been enforcing this. So it's encouraging that behavior, monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. And so to the extent that we can enforce this as aggressively as I think we'd like to Mr. Hanlon's point, how successful it was 20 years ago or whatever that might be, I think we're going to be in that space now.
Okay, so this varies from a question, but very robust would be cool.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think it'd be very robust, but it's difficult with the resources that we have and everything, and the priorities of calls, but certainly that, I expect you to see some significant enforcement. We can always come back and tell you what those numbers look like after, a 6-month period or whatever that might be.
That'd be great. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, see none. Anybody from the public? See nobody. We'll close the public portion, bring it back to council, entertaining a motion in item 12, ordinance 2026-13. Mayor Pro Tem Solinsky, please.
I would like to move to approve ordinance 2026-13, which is an ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, amending section 120.030.150 of the Glenwood Springs Municipal Code to include prohibiting solicitation at certain intersections within the city.
Excellent. A motion to approve the ordinance. Councilor Schachter,
I second the motion.
and a second. Any discussion? Councilor Smith.
Thank you. I am skeptical, but enthusiastic to try this. I remain worried that we're pushing a balloon that'll bubble out somewhere else, and the somewhere else may be on sidewalks, more in people's faces. City attorney noted a couple weeks ago that we have other ordinances to tend to aggressive behavior. Yes, but then you have the threshold of definition. If somebody is politely soliciting downtown and making people personally uncomfortable, I think that may create a new problem at a new location because we've taken them off of these other locations where everybody's protected by car windows. So I would encourage us to, upon approval of this and robust enforcement of it, to monitor the results, not only at the intersections, but the results in other parts of town. What consequences, perhaps unintended consequences, occur elsewhere, so that we may need to reconsider this based on that information. So with that assumption that we can monitor the bigger picture in response to this, I'd be glad to support it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any more discussion? See none, I'll call for the question.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, guys. Moving on to item 13, ordinance 2026-14, an ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, amending section 120.020.100 of the Glenwood Springs Municipal Code prohibiting unauthorized habitation, camping, and sleeping. Carl again.
Thank you. I'm going to try once again to make this really uninteresting. We had, in response to the Oregon case regarding camping and public arrests, that the U.S. Supreme Court overturned and allowed for this kind of sort of citywide ban on camping. We had previously had that limited to specific areas in town, given the limited to certain properties in town, particularly in light of the fire danger in particular that we continue to see and continues to increase on a regular basis. This would ban camping anywhere within the corporate boundaries on any public property, including, parks, underpasses, any publicly owned property. I will tell you that we're going to come back with a minor tweak on second reading. I was meeting with Parks Department today, that there are some instances that in my zealousness to nail this down, that we needed to think about having some kind of a permitting program, like when the bike riders come through and they want to camp in a park, or the Boy Scouts or something like that, that we need to insert a permitting provision in this that I didn't think about, honestly, because I was thinking about a different thing. So with that, happy to answer any questions, but this is just a citywide ban on camping on public properties, rights of way, or streets. Different provisions apply if you're going to be on private property.
Correct.
So that's a different thing.
Thank you. Councilor Schmal.
Questions? Following that thought, should there be a permitting for private property camping?
Generally, if it's over, and I'm drawing a blank on the number, I'm sorry, Councilor Schmal, I don't have it off the top of my head. There are some limitations on how that goes on private property already in the code. And it's probably better if I come back to you with some information.
Yeah, I'm suggesting that there may be private property owners that don't necessarily object, but would appreciate somebody else objecting and enforcing.
Yeah, I mean, I recognize that they always have the ability to trespass somebody, which is probably the most effective tool on the uninvited guest. And the one that really we're going to rely on most heavily, and from a prosecutorial standpoint, either in municipal court or county court, they would be relying on as well, as why isn't the charge trespass in that case?
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Smith?
Thank you. Is this in addition to or instead of going after fuel canisters?
This is kind of unrelated in a way. It's addressing the same larger problem of fire danger, I think, in town, and being aggressive about how that goes down. The canister question is going to be a different conversation, I think.
So that canister conversation still is live.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's in the suite of things. We wanted to get a couple of things on the book, the last ordinance and this one, that we knew we could move more quickly on, and that's why they're in front of you now.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, quick question. When I read this, Did I see in there that it's from 10 o'clock till 7 o'clock in the morning? Why are we doing that? I'm just curious what the thought is behind that.
Where were you 10 o'clock into?
I don't know. I could, did somebody else read that or did I just?
10 PM to 7 AM.
Oh,
The second whereas.
the second whereas. I think that's the current one and that we're repealing and replacing.
Okay, so
Yeah,
there
I
will,
think,
no more time limits.
Right.
Okay, it's 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Excellent.
That was us reciting what the current code said.
Sure.
Since we were doing a full repeal and replace.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Any more questions? See none. Anybody from the public? Also see none. We'll close that portion of the hearing, bring it back to council, entertaining a motion in ordinance 2026-14. Mayor Pro Tem Solinsky.
I would like to move to approve ordinance 2026-14, which is an ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, amending section 120.020.100 of the Glenwood Springs Municipal Code, prohibiting unauthorized habitation, camping, and sleeping.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to approve. I need a second. Councillor Weimer,
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? See none, call for the question.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Carl. That concludes our discussion and or actions. Councillor comments, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Still suspended out there for this council, I believe, is the question of follow-up to the Planning and Zoning Commission's revocation of a special use permit for an office in West Glenwood Springs. Just want to be sure that that's still coming back again at some point.
Yeah, I was gonna raise that in my my comments. We're continuing to try to verify status of that with the property owner and GSA and ICE. We anticipate, and I was also going to say in my comments, I'm going to be gone at the next meeting. And since it's an issue that I've handled, we're going to put that on the agenda for the August 6th meeting for a final decision by you guys. And hopefully we will, we're trying to communicate, but haven't heard anything out of them. So that's kind of where that's at.
Thank you. With that helpful answer to a question, I'll just offer actual comment. I find the exercise we've gone through seeking what so-called second legal opinion to be at its very best odd, and actually seems inappropriate and distracting, frankly, and even a bit rude to our professional staff. We have experienced, knowledgeable legal counsel. The council can make decisions based on that advice from that counsel. Even if we decide to do something different from that advice, I do think the city council should consciously act upon this one way or another for an array of reasons, but top on the list of those reasons to stand behind the Planning and Zoning Commission in what they courageously took on. Statewide ballot proposal number 175 has qualified for the November ballot. This would direct all transportation related revenues collected by the state to be used on highway construction and maintenance. It's intended to head off legislatures' apparent habit to use some of that money for other non-transportation purposes. In the course of preparing that proposal for the ballot, it either intentionally or inadvertently harms the potential for using state CDOT funds for other forms of transportation besides highway, which I fear has consequences for City of Glenwood Springs, for our regional transit service and interactions among those. It's going to be hard to get transit money if this passes. I would like to see the council, seek support for the council to have at least a work session on this and consider taking a formal position one way or the other on Proposition 175, following the lead of RAFTA board, which and staff who have issued a statement on this. Picken County, Aspen have issued statements on this. I'd like Glenwood Springs to consider it, at least to have a conversation about it. Do I go about that by looking for other people to say, yeah, I want to have a workshop on this? And what's the technique?
I think that's how it would work. Yeah. Yeah. You got to get 2 more of us to put it in a work session.
Who would like to talk about this? I got 2. I got 3. I got 4. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
All right.
And
The
then-
work session.
And finally, just to make
Proposition, whatever.
Ryan and Matt's staying so late a little worthwhile, when will be the first occasion for public outreach and information on the Glenwood Park reconstruction?
Hi, Council. A good question. So we obviously awarded it 2 weeks ago. We had our kickoff meeting with the consultant yesterday. Went out and walked the site. We're going to be preparing some diagrams and some exhibits. So that's going to take a little time. So I can't give you a specific answer, Councilor Smith, but I would target someplace around, let's say, August, September timeframe. That'll give us some time to create some drawings. The consultant is planning on flying it with the drone to be able to create some better exhibits. So that's kind of when I'm kind of thinking that coming back. And in fact, when we had our meeting with the school district, they targeted, about the 2nd or 3rd week when school's back in session. I thought maybe the week before school started, but they said that's crazy time. They said, let's get into a pattern. So I would think, like I said, late August, early September feels the right time to kind of have those conversations.
Thank you. And thank you.
All right. Thank you. Councilor Schachter.
No, just one thing.
Microphone.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Kudos to Steve, CDOT, staff, whoever finally got a really nice Red Rock, Glenwood Springs sign, Matt, in South Glenwood, finally. Thank you.
I haven't seen it.
It's
It's
there.
Oh,
It is there.
is it
It's
big?
a nice
Okay.
monument sign.
Right. All right. Thank you. Councilor Weimer. He's good. Councilor Townsley. Good. Councilor Small. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. I got nothing. Well, so city administration, Steve.
I think I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Carl.
Just like I made in the comment to Councilor Smith, I'm going to be gone at the next meeting. Richard's going to be here to cover for me. Be nice to him or not.
Well, do what you will. It's fine.
Anyway,
nice.
well, we had that conversation. It's why we scheduled it for the 6th. I'm not going to do that to somebody off my team. There will be some updates coming out around Mitchell Cooper and the stuff going on up in the hill and the our interactions with the county. I'll probably be sending that out as some memos next week just to update you guys as to where we're at on all of that. It's not worthy of going to an executive session, but I just want to keep you guys informed. So expect that middle of the next
All right.
week.
Great. Thank you. Any correspondence?
On for tonight.
I didn't see anything coming in. Excellent. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, social event.
We're going to go to docs.
Okay, that was short and sweet. Sounds good. I am entertaining a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Thank you.
So move.
Okay, and a second, and a second by Mitchell Weimer. I need to call for the question, please. We need to do this officially.
The motion passes unanimously.